Hey guys, what's going on? This is Colin jumping in here at the top. Just want to say thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for checking out this episode of Reservoir Dogs. Now, this episode is a little bit different. This is one that we recorded on our Patreon a while back. I think it's like episode 10. So it's one of the early ones that we did. But in lieu of a regular feature presentation this week, we're going to be putting this on the main feed for a limited time. If you have not checked out our Patreon, it's patreon.com/midnight double feature. You can join the green room. It's $5 a month. And this is just an example of one of the dozens and dozens of episodes that you can get there. But I just wanted to jump in at the top and let you guys know that this is just going to be for a limited time. And if you like this, there's more and you can check it out. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I was going to start this episode by singing Stuck in the Middle with you, but now I just don't feel confident enough. So this is going to be the beginning. You know, I actually have like the lyrics pulled up and everything, and I'm just like, I'm not going to pull the trigger on this.
I'm so scared, I think I'll fall out of my chair, and I'm wondering how I get down from here. Jokers to the left. Colin's drinking alcohol again, stuck in the middle with you. I think it's now just become bonus that I'm like, just pour some alcohol on it. I'll be funny.
Dude, literally, yeah, if you guys can't, because this is not a fucking visual medium, Colin's pulled out the Captain Morgan again.
Yeah.
From our Freddy Krueger and Freddy versus Jason episode, House of Wax episode. You're still going with that bottle, dude. I didn't take you for a bitch.
No, dude, yeah, no, I don't. I brought this to a Halloween party, and even at the Halloween party, I didn't touch any of it. I had like a couple of Michelob Ultras, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm good. I didn't want to drink like liquor and then drive 30 minutes home, you know? So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna drink this on the podcast, man. It's like, it's good. You're sitting here, you're not going anywhere, you know, and it's
Friday night, dude.
Right, it's Friday night.
Just fuck it.
Perfect time.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Well, I mean, like, here we are. We're covering Reservoir Dogs. Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs.
Ooh.
This is, okay, like, when I chose this movie, dude, I was like, when I suggested this movie, you're like, this is main feed material. And I agree that it 100% is main feed material. But we can't set a precedent on the bonus feed that we just cover shit movies.
Right,
like,
yeah.
You know? Like, it's been Freddy versus Jason, House of Wax. You guys are paying for this shit, so we kind of got to give you some good shit once in a while, you know?
Right, yeah. Well, and that's exactly, I mean, we haven't covered Tarantino since like the 4th episode of this podcast or something.
Yeah, we've been shit scared, dude, right? Like, we've been absolutely... He's one of those directors that we haven't covered a Scorsese movie. Like, you know, like for that kind of like same reason where it's like, he's hard to approach because you like his stuff, you know, like, and you don't want to butcher it. So hopefully, you know, this episode turns out well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance because I'm getting over a awful sinus infection because along with my liquor pickup, I've also started doing a lot of cocaine. So that's been the main issue with that. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, you cut out for a bit there. Did you say yeast infection?
Yeah, yeast infection. So yeah, okay, there's going to be some sniffles and some nose blowings and stuff, but I mean, I'll try to keep it to a minimum. Just FYI for the listeners at home.
Yeah, keep the rebel down. But here we are covering Reservoir Dogs. Let's get into our thoughts. We're not gonna dive into our history with Tarantino because we've already done that. That's all our thoughts are on the record. Man. You just fucking down that Captain Morgan. I'm sorry. Like, that's amazing.
Straight from the bottle.
This is a movie that was made before I was born that I have seen multiple times. So this is, I guess, like an outlier, right? I fucking love this movie, dude. I mean, what else can you kind of like, what praise am I going to say, right? I mean, like, this is a tour de force in dialogue, you know, and that's something that Tarantino is probably one of the best filmmakers out there, the best at, you know, out of like Christopher Nolan, out of Martin Scorsese, Denis Villeneuve. Like, Tarantino is that one director and writer who is just so top notch at writing dialogue and getting his actors to execute that dialogue. And with a movie like this that takes place in one location primarily, that's you're putting all of your eggs in that basket. You're relying on your actors to deliver that dialogue and that dialogue to be up to snuff. Like, like, because it's just otherwise it's just going to be unengaging. Like if the dialogue's unengaging and we're in one location where there's no kind of like visual flair or like there's no score in this movie either, by the way. So
Right.
take out score, take out cinematography. I mean, I'm not saying the cinematography in this is bad, it's great, but you're relying on your actors and your script to really sell you the movie. And man, I'm pretty sure you haven't seen it. You haven't seen Hateful Eight, have you?
No, that's the only Tarantino movie I haven't seen.
This comes up, like, I mean, like, this is going to come up. It was probably going to be inevitable that Hateful Eight came up, but he made Reservoir Dogs as his first movie, and then Hateful Eight was made in 2018 or something like that. It might have been 2015, something like that. And man, like, it's very similar because structurally it's the kind of like, you're in one kind of like location, and the premise of the movie is to find out who, quote, the bad guy is, unquote, right? So it's kind of like, it's very much like The Thing in that way, right? Like, I mean, like, Tarantino said that he was very much inspired by The Thing when he made Hateful Eight. Like, he's like, it's a snow setting. You even
Kurt
have
Russell.
Morricone. Yeah, Kurt Russell, Morricone. So it's very, very much inspired by The Thing. I think Hateful Eight is if you put Hateful Eight and Reservoir Dogs next to each other, you can kind of see how far Tarantino's come. Like, it's very clear just how technically proficient he's become, and Hateful Eight has things that Reservoir Dogs doesn't, and Reservoir Dogs has things that Hateful Eight doesn't. For example, the editor for this movie, who would go on to edit most of Tarantino's movies, Sally Menke.
Yeah.
Man, she is, like, dude, can you imagine the daunting task of sitting down and editing a Tarantino movie, dude? It's just all like, there's no straight through line, right? Like, scenes are like cut and put in different places to kind of give you a storytelling technique where it's just like, I don't have enough information yet, but I will be provided that information later. And it's just like, once it pays off, and it's kind of like, I guess it's, what's the word? It's not in, like, there's a word that I'm trying to think of. And
Chronological?
Yes! Fuck me. I'm like inconsequential. No, like, dude. But yeah, it's not in chronological order, and it's just insane. Like, it's such a fantastic way of telling story, and it's brilliant, dude. Like, he uses it amazingly. The cast in this is absolutely outstanding. Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen, Chris Penn, Steve Buscemi, Eddie Bunker, of course, Quentin Tarantino, and Lawrence Tierney. I think if I had to kind of like pull out a specific actor from this, that would be my favorite. It's Steve Buscemi. I think Steve Buscemi is just, man, like, he is killing it in this movie. Like, he is on fire. He's just absolutely brilliant. Give me your rundown.
Yeah, I think Reservoir Dogs is probably it's probably my favorite Tarantino movie. I like it so much better than Pulp Fiction. I like it better than Kill Bill. I mean, Inglourious Bastards, all of them. I think that this is probably my favorite one. And I actually find myself, as time goes on, I kind of like Tarantino movies like less and less. I know that sounds crazy, but this is like, if he had continued to make movies that were just, there's something about this movie that's like lightning in a bottle. Something about California and like the late 80s, early 90s that's really, really, really cool. Same thing with like Pulp Fiction, just this seedy underbelly of like California kind of thing that I really love. And, if he made 10 movies about that, I think I'd get fucking bored. It's cool he's made a Western. It's cool he's made like kung fu flicks and stuff. And yeah, it's cool, but at the same time, he borrows from a lot of people, and I think that eventually his movies get really, really, really bloated when it's like, man, look, this thing is fucking lean and mean and a buck 30.
100 minutes. Like, we were like, when we chose this 2 days ago, which is very rare for the podcast. Usually it's about a week in advance or something like that, so we got some time to prepare. We were like, all right, we need to choose like a lean and mean movie, and it's going to be a good movie, right? So we're like, fucking Reservoir Dogs.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing is I've seen this movie I mean, there was a point where this was like a borderline obsession of mine where I would watch this every day on VHS. Like I watched this all the time. I was wanting to do it as a play really, really, really bad. I was at the time, like 10 years ago, I was doing like a lot of theater stuff, maybe even not that long ago, but I was doing a lot of theater stuff. And I really wanted to do this as a play. And I had a lot of friends who were actors and were into it and stuff. And I had some friends that wanted to do it. But in order to do it, the licensing and the copyright for it's just outrageous. It was just so much money. I didn't even look at it because once somebody explained to me, my uncle was trying to do a similar thing and had to get like a copyrighted image of Miracle on 34th Street, and it cost him like $1,500 just for a picture to put into a book. And it's like, dude, to get the script for this, the copyright, I can't imagine how insane that would be. I do have the script actually somewhere around here. I own it somewhere. Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. I've got the script somewhere, but there's just something about this movie that's Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs are extremely similar, you know, in the same way that I think a lot of people could probably link like Inglourious Basterds and Django kind of together. They have like very similar kind of like feels to them.
Well, here's the thing for me. Like this is something I find very much about Tarantino's movies, especially Pulp Fiction and especially Inglourious Basterds. I find them endlessly rewatchable. Like, you know, like there's something about these movies, especially, you know, like these are two movies. I'm talking about Pulp Fiction and Inglourious. These are two movies that include, you know, crazy levels of violence, you know, vulgar language, whatever, you know, heroin overdoses.
Yeah.
Like Inglourious Basterds is about the goddamn Holocaust, for fuck's sake. But he finds like ways to make them so rewatchable through his dialogue, dude.
See, and I think mine's the opposite. I think as time goes on, I want to watch his newer stuff less and less. Like I love Django. I like Inglourious Basterds. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just don't feel the urge to watch it again. It's really long. It just kind of, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. I'm like, don't get me wrong, it's cool. I like it. I love seeing Brad Pitt drive around Southern California in the 80s. The
I've
60s.
had it on in the background a lot. It's a very good like background movie. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
because it's honestly it's more of like a feeling than it is like all this plot stuff that had. This is just lead and mean, and this happens and this happens, therefore that and this and X and Y
revelations,
and right? Exactly, and you know, there's just something about this movie that I know he borrowed. You know, what is that? What is that Hong Kong film like Streets on Fire or something like that is the name that is so fucking similar to this. But you know, those movies, I kind of look at Quentin Tarantino. I'm like, man, you're one of fucking Weinstein's boys. Like, you knew what the fuck was going on. He even says like, I knew enough that I should have said something. And I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, I can't. It makes me lose a lot of respect. And the thing is, when I'm like, you know, I think, you know, man, you knew what was going on. Like, you take a lot of shit from other people. Like, I've lost a lot of respect for him as time goes on. But the thing is, his movies are just so ingrained in American pop culture where it's like, it's still, you know, even though you may not like that person and you may not like where they're coming from, I mean, I would not be who I am today without Pulp Fiction. You know, watching that's the first Tarantino movie I ever saw. I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And that really kind of opened my mind to like what movies could be. It was a huge thing. And when I watch something like this is what kind of rejuvenates like my love for this stuff. It's like, man, there is still stuff out there that's not, you know, a 3-hour long cut of Brad Pitt just driving around like California, which is awesome to watch, but it's not something that I really want to rewatch over and over again. Reservoir Dogs, I could watch over and over and over again because I feel so, you know, this has that like entrenched kind of Hawkins Stranger Things 80s thing. Like, I feel like I am in fucking California in 1991 or 92 or whatever this was filmed.
I feel that way about Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, dude, like the way that he kind of like really puts you in that 60s setting.
Yeah.
If you watch like the behind the scenes of that, they transformed like Hollywood Boulevard into like 60s like Hollywood. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I that's one of the things that I really do love about it. I just feel like that's a movie that meanders and just goes and goes. I'm like, versus something like Inglourious or Django that I'm like, man, you know, those are really good movies. Those are like lean. No, I don't want to say they're lean, but they definitely have like momentum behind them.
Yeah, Django's his most kind of like straightforward point A to B to C movie,
Right.
I think.
Right. There's not a lot of like chronology and shit being flopped around, but there's just something about this movie that it's like when you watch something like The Outsiders, there's like Rob Lowe and Tom Cruise and Patrick Swayze and Emilio Estevez. There's like all these people that you're like, holy shit, and then there's C. Thomas Howell that never really went on to do a whole lot of other shit, But when you're watching this, you're like, dude, none of these guys just fell off the map. Like Sean Penn, Harvey Keitel, like all the and Harvey Keitel was really like the only. Chris Penn, sorry. Like Chris Penn had been in some stuff. Yeah, he's in like Footloose. His brother Sean Penn.
He was in Rush Hour. Have you seen Rush Hour, the first one?
Wait, you're talking about the Chris Tucker movie?
Yeah, he was in the first one. Chris
Penn.
Is
he? Okay, because I'm talking about like up to this point. Like I had really only seen him in like Footloose. Like I'm sure there's other stuff that he was in, but Harvey Keitel and Chris Penn were really like the names in this movie. So to see like Steve Buscemi, Michael Madsen, Tim Roth, like these people who eventually just really kind of blew up, and they're still huge. Maybe not Michael Madsen so much, but all these guys are still absolutely huge actors. I really love this movie. There's something about there's everything about the setting of this world that I want to walk in and just walk around and kind of fucking look around at this place and be like, where are you? What is this place? Like, what building? What the fuck is this building you're in? What the hell is this thing? Like, there's a ramp and there's coffins everywhere. And it's like, everything just leads to more questions. And that's why I think I like this so much more. Same thing with Pulp Fiction. Like, I just wanted to get up and walk around and hope I bump into Marcellus Wallace. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. Versus his other ones, I don't feel that way about them. This feels so. There's something about the way it's like watching the first couple of seasons of Seinfeld that I'm like, oh fuck, man, I love that kind of aesthetic, that early 90s aesthetic. But the whole thing of like, it's lean, it's mean, there's so many questions. You don't ever know Mr. Pink's name. You don't ever know Mr. Brown's name. You don't ever know Mr. Blue's name. Like, there's so much stuff that goes unanswered that doesn't need to be answered, but I end up having so many questions that I want to know. And like, I fucking love this movie. This is probably one of my favorite, like, top 25 movies. It's definitely my favorite Tarantino movie for sure.
Absolutely, man. I second those thoughts. I think it's probably somewhere in my top 50 if I was to choose. If I was to get down really into it. I think my all-time favorite Tarantino movie is Inglourious Basterds, but that's again interchangeable. Like if you ask me next year what my favorite Tarantino movie is, it's probably Pulp Fiction. Like, he's a director who is really interchangeable for me. And I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to make a bigger effect on me as time goes on, because I'm starting to find things about it that I didn't really pick up the first time, things I appreciated about it now. But yeah, man, like this is an absolute powerhouse of a film, and I'm actually really keen to get into this. So what do you say? Let's get into this.
Let's fucking do it.
All right, man. Well, look, let me just say, this is such an easy and really, at the same time, hard movie to take notes for, because A, it takes place in two locations, so, very easy to take notes for, but B, the dialogue is so good that you just want to write down every single line in the movie.
Right.
Like,
I'm hungry. Let's go get a taco. It's like the lines like that. They're like, what the fuck?
Exactly. Let's get to this diner scene, dude. The infamous diner scene, right? Like literally over the credits before we actually fade in, we get Tarantino telling us that Madonna's Like a Virgin is about a guy who digs a guy with a big dick. A girl with a big dick. And man, like this is great. Like, I mean, like I love when Tarantino pops up as an actor in his own movies. Like, I mean, he's in Pulp Fiction, he's in Django as well. He's got an Australian accent in that movie. Like I like director cameos, man. Like it's always a thing that I've always dug.
Yeah, he's terrible in this, by the way. He's awful.
He's bad in Pulp Fiction too.
See, I like it. I like him in Pulp Fiction because he's like, it's not the coffee in my fridge, it's the dead in my garage. Like, oh my dude, his delivery in Pulp Fiction is so much better. I feel like he's a lot more confident. But in this, it's like, she's feeling something. She ain't felt him forever, and I'm like, okay, calm down, dude. Like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, like, look, it's okay, and like there has been, we're not going to get into like the accusations of violence that Tarantino's received. Everyone's got complaints about the violence in his movies, but I personally don't.
I don't
give a fuck. But like, I mean, the media makes this a huge thing. Like, I'm sure we talked about it on that episode of Django where that guy just kind of like he's like, no, I'm shutting your butt down.
Oh yeah. Well, just because I watch fucking ER doesn't make me want to go be a surgeon, And it's like, calm the fuck down, like just chill, dude.
It's escapism, right? I mean, like you just want to fucking escape, and this is cinema, right?
It's
like,
what escapism.
Escapism. Fuck.
I was like, escapism? What kind of weird Mormon ideology is this?
Oh, man. I'm fucking tired, dude. I just, did 10 kilometers on the fucking cross trainer. What do you want from me? What I did want to kind of, mention is something that Tarantino got shit for with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. The way he treats female actors, or female characters, rather. There are none in this. And I don't see... for me, it's not that big of a problem, but I can see why it could be a bit of an issue, I mean, we literally open with Like a Virgin is about a guy who digs a girl with a big dick. It's a little, and considering what you were saying as well about the Weinstein thing, right? Like him,
yeah,
like him kind of knowing things, and he's kind of admitting that he should have come out earlier. It's not problematic for me because I'll still watch the movies and enjoy them. And I still like the guy as a director, but it's a little telling,
Well, yeah. And I don't really think with this, he also went on to make The fucking Bride. He did 2 Kill Bill movies with badass female characters. So it's like, but at the same time,
and Death Proof as well. Death Proof had great female characters as well.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Not a great movie, but
no. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that at the time, it's probably just the stuff that he's that he's centered around, that he's interested in. Do I watch this and be like, this is kind of macho, yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, this does not feel like a movie that was made in 1991 or 1992. This feels like 12 Angry Men. This feels like 12 Angry Men with some crazy indie Art Deco weird feel to it, So it's like, yeah, sure, it would be cool if they'd have thrown in fucking Gillian Anderson as Mr. Blonde or something. Yeah, that'd be fucking cool.
Fucking awesome, dude. Holy shit, I want to say that now.
Yeah, or Kate Blanchett as Mr. Pink or something. I don't give a shit. That's cool. But it's never really occurred to me, because at the end, if he had never made Kill Bill, then yeah, I'd be like, you kind of got that John Carpenter thing going on, of just everything is just a mustachioed machismo kind of guy. But there's something, what's going on in making Kill Bill and then Death Proof and stuff, did you see that shit where he was making Uma Thurman drive during Kill Bill and she wrecked and she really fucked her shit up? Have you seen that?
No. I did hear that she had an injury, though. I heard about the injury.
It's very hard to watch. 'Cause she's driving and she even told him, she's like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I don't really want to do this. And he's like, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And she fucking wrecked, going pretty quick.
Fuck.
And apparently they're not, I could be totally speaking out of turn, but I heard it really kind of didn't end well for both of them. I don't think they're really, not that they're not friends anymore, but yeah, I heard that after that it was not a good time for both of them, because she was like, dude, I told you I didn't want to fucking do this shit, man.
Well, I mean, look, this is set in 1992 and women didn't have rights yet. So
that
makes sense. It makes sense. Interestingly though, Madonna apparently really liked the film, but refuted Tarantino's interpretation of the song Like a Virgin. She gave him a copy of her erotic album signed to Quentin. It's not about dick. It's about love. Madonna.
Yeah, I heard about that. There's a movie he made before this called My Best Friend's Birthday, and I can't find it anywhere. I can only find a still of it, but it looks terrible, dude. It looks so bad.
I'm sure it does. I've never been interested in searching that out. Even same with Christopher Nolan's movie, Doodlebug or whatever. I'm just I'm good. I'll live. I'm good. We meet the entire cast of characters. Mr. White, played by Harvey Keitel, Mr. Orange, Tim Roth, Mr. Blonde, Michael Madsen, Nice Guy Eddie, Chris Penn, Mr. Pink, Steve Buscemi, Mr. Blue, Eddie Bunker, Mr. Brown, Quentin Tarantino himself, and Joe Cabot, played by Lawrence Tierney. Man, can I just say how outstanding this scene is in terms of camera work, but also just straight up character development? Just these guys sitting around a table talking shit we learn so much about each character. All right, and stick with me here. Like, I might be reaching with a couple of these, but I love this. Right, for example, Mr. Blonde dissents, like he refutes like Tarantino's kind of like interpretation of like a virgin by saying that it's about a girl who's very vulnerable. For me, man, as I'm watching it this time around, doesn't it kind of like give you an indication that Mr. Blonde is someone who's able to find people's kind of like weaknesses and exploit them? Like, he's kind of like smarter than he lets on. He's able to really kind of like hone in on the material or like hone in on the character of someone and be like, all right, yes, I am targeting that weakness. I'm going to fucking destroy you. Like, Blonde just gives me that kind of like really
Manipulative?
smart, yeah, really smart, manipulative psychopath vibe,
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Orange is the one who asks for like which song is True Blue. Again, kind of tells us that he's inexperienced, young, kind of like new to this, right? Joe's struggling to remember that Chinese girl's name. Like, he's a competent mob boss, but at the same time, probably not really. Like, like he's just kind of like a little, I'm not great at everything. And Brown forgets what he's talking about, right? And when he forgets what he's talking about, it's Pink, like Steve Buscemi, that accurately, like word for word, reminds him what he's talking about, right? For me, that's like, he's someone who focuses on the details and doesn't forget things or let things go. And we find that much, much later about Pink and Buscemi's character. And even the way Brown goes on about like a virgin tells us something about Tarantino himself. Like, that he doesn't give a fuck about conventional dialogue and his writing stand and like, these normal writing standards. Like, I mean, like he goes on about like, dick, 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 dick.
You're
like,
right.
That is not normal writing. That is not normal dialogue for 1992. And that tells us so much about Tarantino and as a person, White, Mr. White, yanking the book away from Joe when he gets frustrated about hearing the Chinese girl. Like, he's quick to kind of like anger and frustration. Like, later we see this a lot, especially when he's confronting Blonde. So, man, like this entire like scene for me is just like here are your cast of characters, and this is their kind of like personalities, and it works brilliantly for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, you kind of get like a round table thing of like, you have Mr. White, who's very no nonsense, Mr. Orange, who's a fucking rat. Who didn't throw in the dollar? Mr. Pink, why? He doesn't believe in, he immediately starts ratting people out. Mr. Blue's the quiet guy because he'll only have like 4 lines of dialogue and then he's out. That's it. And then you think, Eddie is the guy who's kind of, he's in it, but he's kind of got a foot in both worlds. He's like, yeah, I'm the boss, but at the same time, I'm kind of one of you guys, But the big thing is, Mr. Pink, obviously some pissed off, get $2 an hour fucking drive-through worker when he's 15. But Mr. Brown strikes me as a type of sitting on a beanbag chair 5 years ago, was watching fucking Heat and was like, you know what, I could do that, and got up and dusted the Cheetos off his shirt and fucking put his bong out and decided just to go rob banks, and that's why he's fucking dead, right away.
Do we want to talk about Eddie Bunker now? I guess we'll talk about Eddie Bunker now.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I don't know a shit ton. He's a thief, right? Real thief.
Right, yeah. He was a former career criminal, and he was the youngest felon to be sent to San Quentin when he was 17.
Shit.
Apparently, he was a novelist, and he also played cons in other films like Runaway Train, The Longest Yard, the '05 version, and Straight Time. And he worked on a technical advisor as others. Dude, this little piece of trivia blew my mind. Jon Voight's character in Heat was based on Bunker.
That's right. I heard about that. That's interesting.
That's awesome, dude.
I guess maybe he's not the hot and heavy guy going in. Maybe he's the guy making moves behind the scene or something.
Right. And apparently in an interview with Empire, Eddie Bunker said the film, Reservoir Dogs, was unrealistic as he would never consider committing a robbery with 5 people he didn't know because, you couldn't trust them, right? You need that level of trust. I guess here it's a little different because all of these guys trust Joe in some kind of capacity and they trust Joe to make the right moves or the right decisions. And, where that kind of like gets muddled up is Mr. Blonde, right? So when Joe chooses Mr. Blonde because of Nice Guys Eddie's sort of, I guess, what's
persistence?
Yeah, he's really pushing, Dad, come on, let's get Vic into this. That's when it starts to get a bit muddly. So Pink refuses to pay the tip. I love his little look when nice guy Eddie's like, let's throw in some green for the tip. It's kind of like he leans back and he's just like, oh man,
He just looks away.
You know what it is, dude? I've seen it so many times. It's I'm about to catch shit for this. Like, I'm about to get roasted for this.
Right. Well, and I love, you can tell the guys at the table, I fucking what is nice guy? And he says like, Jesus, I don't know, a fucking Jew would have the balls to say that. It's like, God damn. But the whole conversation at this table is great too, where he's like, he's like, yeah, I know what the song is, motherfucker. He's like, yeah, you keep calling me motherfucker. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like they're talking over each other. Like you kind of want to sit down and drink coffee with these guys, but at the same time, it's like one of these guys is probably committed rape. Somebody's probably armed robbery, murder. Like, oh my God, that's terrifying.
You're telling me that Michael Madsen in this movie has not killed anyone before? Like, come on.
Dude, yeah, 100%. Like, that's things like they seem so cool, and then when you get to know them, you're like, oh, fuck, this is not. It almost has that Goodfellas thing of like, oh, yeah, all right, this is cool. And then halfway through it, you're like, I don't know about this anymore.
Well, that's something that I love about Tarantino's dialogue. These seem like real people. Like, they're talking over each other. They're very laid back. They're talking about like a virgin. They're arguing about it. This is how a lot of guys talk when there aren't women around. Like, like it's all just, like, let's go grab a beer. Let's fucking catch up. And again, these are terrible people, but Tarantino finds a way to make them super likable and super, I'm not going to say relatable, but engaging.
I'll say relatable because there's shades. Like Mr. Pink's an asshole. You probably wouldn't hang out with him. Blonde's kind of an asshole, but orange and white, blue, maybe brown. It's like there's different shades of these people that like, what? Yeah, I would hang out with Mr. White.
I relate actually to Mr. Pink. I love the way that I love his way that he goes about debating, right? Like the way that he kind of like goes about like, we need to have an actual conversation about what's going on instead of like jumping straight to violence. Like, like we need to get like a level of understanding so I can understand what's going on. And dude, this is something that we didn't talk about and we probably should. This is a heist movie without a heist.
Oh yeah, that's true. I like that a lot. They did actually make a game out of this. There's like an Xbox game back in the day, like 05 or something. And I think that's what I think it actually is the heist, and I mean, it's like true crime Streets of LA, like bad, like really bad, like animation kind of stuff. But there is stuff that's like, I wouldn't want to see like a short film where it's like, oh, it's the heist, the footage you've never seen, like blah blah blah. But if they had put out like a graphic novel, like a one issue graphic novel, I'd be like, dude, yeah, I'm fucking so down for that. But that is kind of the thing is A, it's budget limitations, but B, at the same time, it's really smart because, who wouldn't mind seeing a couple of things like, them going in and him shooting people and what the fuck is going on, like blah blah blah. But at the same time, it's the Jaws effect of like, I almost wish if I had to have it in this movie, I wish the credits would roll and everything fade to black, and right at the end, it's just them running into the thing. Like, oh shit, it's like at the end, like, oh my fucking God. I think that would be kind of cool. But other than that, it's the mystery of it. It also like, that's what makes me want to dip my toe into this world, is because I don't see enough of the outside world. The little bit I do see, I'm like, gas is fucking $1.19 a gallon. What the fuck, And I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's shit like that. Seeing the old Burger King and like Bud Light and Doritos packaging and stuff. I'm like, oh fuck, that's so cool. Like, I love stuff like that. It's just that old, do you remember that Simpsons Treehouse of Horror when Homer falls out of the sky going into the fourth dimension? Or the third dimension.
Absolutely.
It's like I swear to God, if he's walking down one street at the end, Mr. Pink is running up the other one. It feels like he's right there. And I love the way that all of that looks, man. Like as a 90s kid, I'm just like obsessed with this aesthetic. I fucking love it.
It looks brilliant, dude. I love it. The way that, like one of the advantages of not showing the heist, and again, budget limitations, it's, what you said with the Jaws effect, it works out so much in its favor because, again, Tarantino's really able to use his dialogue to tell us, or, the characters telling each other about the heist later. And, he's able to effectively do that so well that you kind of like start to imagine the heist. You actually begin to picture it in your head. And not only that, you hear so much about Michael Madsen's character, blonde, going on this huge shooting spree and like him being like a loose cannon. It's kind of like you're building up your monster without, actually showing anything. Before
Yeah.
I'm talking about before the ear cutting scene. So once he's left in that room by himself with the police officer, you're like, oh fuck, I've heard so much shit about this guy. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm on the edge of my seat.
I want to correct myself because I actually looked up that Uma Thurman wreck. And I was like, I want to be sure. I don't want to be like telling a bunch of crazy shit. So they did have a falling out over it. After the crash, Thurman and Tarantino had a falling out, but 15 years later, the director gave her the footage of the wreck. He gave it to me so I could expose it and let it see the light of day, regardless of it most likely being an event for which justice will never be possible. He also did so with full knowledge it could cause him personal harm, and I am proud of him for doing the right thing and for his courage. So it seemed like they had a fall. Yeah, they had a falling out over it, but he kind of realized, like, yeah, I fucked up. He did the stunt himself. I was reading that he did the driving stunt himself, and she hit a palm tree or something. That was the issue. But apparently she was just not comfortable, and he was forcing her to do this. And her main thing was against like Weinstein and shit like that. But apparently, she was. I guess they had a falling out over it, but eventually kind of reconciled or something. I hate that tabloid shit, but it's just that is one of the interesting things of like it would be like Johnny Depp and Tim Burton having a falling out. I'm like, why, dude? You guys did like 10 movies together. Like, what the fuck happened,
Oh, let's not talk about Johnny Depp today. Like,
yeah, right?
he's all over the press. Like it's just fucking. Ugh, I'm good.
Honestly, I've never even seen those movies, the Crimes of Grindelwald thing, and I'm like, dude,
I've seen them both. Like they're okay. Like it's not Harry Potter level, but I mean him dropping out is a little bit of a. It's not that big of a deal, but it's also like you're also the main villain, and Crimes of Grindelwald, the last movie, was like it was left on a bit of a cliffhanger, so you were expected back, kind of thing.
Right. I wish him the best of luck, though. That situation's all weird, and who knows? It's kind of up in the air, and it's like best of luck to all parties involved with that. And fuck Amber Heard.
She's still hot though.
Oh
She's still
God! They put you in Aquaman because they scraped you off the bottom of the ocean.
Woo! This is what you pay for. What's special? Going out the back and sucking your dick? I'd go over 12% for that.
That's a great fucking line, dude. I love it.
Dude, I love how stubborn Mr. Pink is here, man. Like, he's just unrelenting until Joe gets back, which is very telling, by the way. Like, like for these guys, he's just, oh, I'm going to be so stubborn, Will Smaller's violin, blah, blah, until Joe gets back, then that's when I'll pay. Like, until Joe literally says, you're paying the fucking tip, that's when I'll pay.
It's the respect. Well, it's the respect, and it's also you paid for the breakfast. Like, yeah, and that's the thing is when Joe comes up, he's like, "Hey, I paid for your goddamn breakfast." It's like, you cheap fuck! Like, throw in a fucking $1, dude. Like, come on.
But again, it tells us so much. It tells us about the hierarchy of these people, but it also tells us about who Pink respects.
You shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize. I'm like, oh God, I love
it, man. Never mind what you would normally do. Yeah. I love it, man. Good stuff.
Toby Wong, fucking Johnny Chang.
Oh my God, dude. Fucking, I got Madonna's big dick coming out of my left ear.
Oh, that's fucking great, man.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. But let's get to the title sequence. A film by Quentin Tarantino. I mean, that always looks, I love that.
Outside in the night, outside in the day. I fucking love that song, dude. Little Green Bag.
Oh, yeah. Slow motion walk to the car as we get introduced to the cast. Dude, love the suits. I mean, who doesn't love the Reservoir Dog suits? Like, it's just a...
It's got that rude ska boy specials like kind of feel. Like I don't know if you know who the specials are. But they're like a British ska band, and that's their logo was just this guy with black glasses and a suit like dancing. And I was like, oh, that feels like such a ska thing, man.
It's brilliant. But apparently the film's budget was so low that many of the actors simply used their own clothing as wardrobe. Most notably Chris Penn's track jacket.
Oh, yeah.
The black suits were provided for free by the designer based on her love for the American crime film genre. Steve Buscemi and Tim Roth wore their own black jeans instead of suit pants.
Nice.
I love, as we just get into this, like into the actual film, we fade in the sounds of Orange just crying and like yelling. Like, it's just, oh, what is that, dude? It sounds like a dying animal. I'm not sure what it is. And then we get, we get the scene, right? I'm sorry. She fucking killed me, man. Holy shit, this gets brutal quick.
Two things: the juxtaposition of all these guys laughing at a table and talking about Madonna's big dick and all this other stuff, and then when he's in the back and he starts freaking out, it's very hard to catch this because Tim Roth's dialect is all over the fucking place in the movie. Panic hits me like a bucket of cold water.
He's British as shit. He's British shit.
Well, so the woman who he shoots for this car, you see it later on. That's his dialect coach. In the movie, he like Quentin Tarantino had to get a dialect coach for Tim Roth because his English accent was coming in so thick. So the woman that gets out of the car and shoots him in the stomach, that's his dialect coach. He's like, it was a pleasure to shoot her all over. I fucking hated her by the end of this movie. But when he's kicking around in the bar, he goes, if you see what he's kicking a car seat. He goes, she had a baby, man. She had a baby. And he's kicking a car seat like she has a fucking child that just killed somebody's mom. And it's like, dude, you got to think this guy who's a cop is so undercover. He's had to watch all these cops get murdered, all these innocent people get murdered. He's had to murder an innocent woman just to maintain his cover. And there's something about that where you can barely see the car seat and the bottom part of that frame. But when his feet start kicking, you can see, you're like, she had a baby, man. She had a baby. And you're like, oh, that is fucking dark. That is dark to a whole different level, man. It took me years to catch that.
I think I've seen this movie a million times that I've never noticed the car seat. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's fucking dark. Dude, it adds a whole other level to that. Like, watching it, not knowing it, he's a cop and not knowing it's like a baby car seat in there or whatever, it's still a good scene. And then you go cop and then you add baby and you're like, oh, Jesus, dude, this is fucking hard. This is hard to watch.
I'm just going to kind of like set this up, dude. Tim Roth is one of my favorite underrated actors out there. Like every time he picks up, like he pops up in something, it's brilliant. He's amazing in The Hateful Eight. Like he gets a much, much bigger part to chew on. He's fantastic in it. He had a show a while ago called Lie to Me.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I love that movie, like that show back in the day, man. Like he could kind of like spot people's kind of like he could look at their facial expressions and tell whether they were lying. It was good stuff. I love him. He's awesome. And of course, like how could we forget? He played the Abomination, right, in Incredible Hulk. I think that was the first thing I saw him in. Really, I
hate the Abomination thing, but I liked him in that movie. He was cool.
Yeah.
Like I duck it and like, say the goddamn words, you're gonna be okay.
Oh, fuck,
dude, Keitel's delivery is like, did you get drunk with Christopher Walken and be like, it's good enough. That's good enough. I'll just do this.
I like it because you can see the intensity in his face, right? Like he's trying to calm this kid down, right? I mean, like he's really like him singing that, like him doing that in the sing-song voice. It's supposed to calm him down, like it's supposed to make him chill. But once he turns around to look back at the road, he's like, fuck,
right?
Like, it's just one of the touches that I always loved about this is just how smudged the blood looks on the leather, dude. Like it's just kind of like rubbed in there. Like, if you're able to eventually clean this car, you're never getting that blood out. Like you're just not. It's
right.
Infused in that leather. So they get to the warehouse, this rendezvous point, where we're going to be spending most of the film, and White lays Orange down on that ramp. Apparently this is an actual mortuary. So that's the reason we have the aprons. Apparently there's shots of like embalming fluid.
Yeah, hearses, coffins. I think I read, has this been torn down? Is this still there? I think it's been demolished, but I'm not 100% sure. If it's not demolished, dude, I am going there in a heartbeat. I would kill to be able to hang out in this place, dude. Like, I'm sure it's radically different now, but still, like, man, that's got to be like a tourist attraction. Are you kidding me?
According to this, the dog's warehouse has sadly been demolished.
Yeah.
But you're sure to recognize the site, now a car park on 59th Avenue, just south of Figueroa Street in Highland Park.
That sucks. I fucking knew. I remember reading that. That sucks. But still, okay, cool.
So Tim Roth, dude, is brilliant here as he just kind of like looks up at White and just asks him to hold him, right? Like telling him he's got his senses back now. Situation is that he's been shot in the belly and that if he doesn't get medical attention, he will die. And, him saying that in the moment is just kind of like interesting because you don't know that he's a cop who probably knows that this is a fatal wound.
Right. Well, that and then the thing where there's a really important scene that we actually don't see where he's like, Larry, I won't tell them anything. Larry. And you're like, you fucking know his name? And it's like, when did you tell?
It's right here. Right.
Does he Does he tell him
He
his
uses
name?
He uses
No,
his
but
name, yeah.
the scene we don't see is where he's like, "What is your name?" He's like, "My name's Larry." You're like, I don't right. So it's like I
Right.
feel like that's an important. I feel like that's a deleted scene from the scene prior, or it's like cut off early or something. But there's something about the fact that this is how quickly Mr. White folds into giving his name up. Like the fact that this is a guy you don't know, he actually is the enemy, quote unquote, and you have no idea. And this is how fast you give up your fucking identity to this total stranger. It actually shows how much of a softy Mr. White is compared to all this shit.
He's a softie and he's also super naive, right? Like he thinks because this is a really young guy, like, like he's very green, like he doesn't even suspect that he's a cop.
Right. Well, and also, I mean, when Mr. Pink shows up, he's like, Mr. White, he's like, enough with this Mr. White shit. Like, he's ready to drop the act like there. And it's like, dude, no. Like Pink has laid out the fact that one of these people is probably a cop. And you're immediately like, I'll just fucking fuck my name. Like, I don't care. But that's the thing of him being like, Larry, I won't tell anybody. Like, if you just let me go, I'll be, I promise I won't tell anybody. And it's like having to look this guy in the face and be like, no, I'm sorry. I can't take you there. Like, fuck. That's rough, man.
Exactly. Pink busts in, ranting about the heist being a setup, dude. Again, Buscemi, just the level of energy he comes in with here, right? It was a setup. It was a fucking setup.
Yeah. Was that a fucking setup or what? Like the way he walks in with that.
Have you seen the Family Guy sketch of Steve Buscemi's teeth? And it's just his teeth is all fucked up, and literally one of his teeth like jumps out, walks out on legs, and is just it's fucking stupid, dude, because his teeth are all crooked and shit.
Is that the one where he's like, you know what? No, I'm done.
Yeah,
and the tooth like walks off.
Yeah. The tooth walks off, and one of the other teeth starts talking to him, like the one that's in his mouth, and it's like, hey, I thought we were going to like hang out here tonight. He's like, no, I got tickets to this play, and he walks off, dude. It's fucking great.
He was
Steve
a fucking.
Buscemi,
He's a fucking
I was about to say. I was about to
cocksucker.
say. I mean, I've got so much respect for him now, dude. I only found this out very recently when we watched what's that movie with Pete Davidson?
Oh, King of Staten Island.
King in Staten Island. Yeah. So that movie is about Pete Davidson's mostly like kind of like his father. Pete Davidson's father was killed in 9/11.
Like for real or in the movie?
For real.
Okay.
For real. In the movie, they kind of changed it to be like he was killed in a fire.
Yeah.
But Steve Buscemi is in that movie, and Steve Buscemi helped out on 9/11 as as part of the brigade. So it's very, when you're watching that movie, it kind of really hits you in the feels when it's this guy, this actor who was there at ground zero, talking to the son of someone who was killed at ground zero.
Right.
And, telling him that your father was a hero. And it's just, holy shit, dude. I did not expect this from a Judd Apatow film. And that just, dude, that just raised my level of respect for Steve Buscemi. Like,
Hell
he's
yeah, dude.
always been a great actor for me. But, man, like, is he just a powerhouse actor?
Yeah, no, yeah, it sounds like a absolute, like, all around, like, something about him and Vince Vaughn. They were in a bar somewhere, and like a bar fight broke out, and fucking Steve Buscemi got slashed in the face. Like there was some kind of fight, and he ended up backing up Vince Vaughn, and he got like cut in the face over it. And I was like, oh shit! Like Steve Buscemi seems like a guy who's like, okay, I got to get rid of this guy. He's like, all right, I got a barrel, I got a hole in the ground. And you're like, whoa! Like Steve Buscemi seems like he's there, like having your back 100% no matter what.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I had to look this up and read it because it was really interesting to me. So. 2001, this is an article from The Guardian. Actors Steve Buscemi and Vince Vaughn and screenwriter Scott Rosenberg, who wrote Con Air, right, were involved in a bar brawl last Thursday that resulted in 4 arrests and nearly killed Fargo star Buscemi. The Hollywood trio are currently filming, blah, blah. 2 men allegedly picked up a fight with the filmmakers when one of their girlfriends began talking to swinger star Vaughn. The scuffle outside the bar is reported to have taken place at 2 a.m. Police on patrol broke up the fracas, but not before Buscemi had been stabbed above the eye and in the jaw, throat, and arm. He was taken to the hospital. Vaughn was maced, according to reports. Timothy Fogarty, 21, was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon for the Buscemi knifing. Holy shit.
Yeah, he almost got fucking murdered. Yeah, I remember that story, and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, but still, though, like, who do you got in this barroom brawl? I got Steve Buscemi. Like, what?
Yeah, dude. Can you imagine doing time and like talking to your cellmate and just being like, "Yeah, what are you in here for?" Just just fucking. I went out drinking one night and I fucking stabbed Steve Buscemi from Fargo. Yeah, from Fargo.
Oh, you
What?
stabbed a 9/11 firefighter, and it's just you getting fucking sexually assaulted for the next 6 months in that jail,
Dude, even the terrorists hate you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Jesus, the fuck.
We found out that Brown died, right? Tarantino's character, the cop shot him. Pink is panicking. Somebody fucked us up big time.
Yeah.
I love his energy, dude. That nervous energy. It's fantastic. He's adamant that it was a setup, didn't hear any sirens, planned for 4 minutes response time, but 17 cops showed up within a minute. He says they were waiting for us. He's paranoid, and Buscemi's performance is awesome here. He's just unable to stand still, dude. Like he's pacing, walking back and forth, running his fingers through his hair. Like, it's good stuff, man.
The best. He's like, man, this is bad. Man, this is bad. He's like, is it bad? He's like, as opposed to good? That's such a good line, dude. I love it.
But like the way he's talking as well, it's almost incoherent. Like, he's just kind of like blabbing on. Like at one point he starts talking about Taiwanese? Like, what's he start talking about when he watches his? He starts
talking about buying weed. He's like, even though somebody told me it was Thai stick, it's like a certain type of really good weed. And he's basically saying that when I had a bad feeling, I'd walk, even if I'm buying weed, and I had a bad feeling, I would just fucking walk. And I had a bad feeling, and I didn't walk, and blah blah. And it's like, dude, just calm down. Like, I love Chris Penn, where he's like, the last thing you need is another fucking cup of coffee.
White calms him down and gives him a cigarette, and they go through what happened. Right, so alarm gets tripped. White turns around, and the cops are there. Agrees with Pink that the cops were already there, and Pink highlights that the cops made the move when Mr. Blonde went crazy and started shooting everybody. Again, like we're hearing this through dialogue, but it's very clear dialogue that we can actually picture in our minds. Like we're able to kind of like visualize the jewelry store, and we're able to place kind of like these characters in the scene and where they are in the jewelry store. For example, like when White says, I turned around and they were already there. You can picture it. Like, you can picture the cops outside, on the street pointing guns at them. Like, it's such a great way to describe the scene without showing the scene. And in your head, it's kind of like one of those things where it's the cinema of the mind is much more epic than what you're actually probably going to see on screen.
And honestly, a lot of this would feel like exposition if it were done by a lesser like filmmaker, but there's a couple of things that save it. A, the dialogue, the performances, where it's just his manic energy of retelling the story. I mean, how many times have you sat around a campfire and somebody told scary stories and it was effective because of their way of telling the story? That's part one. Part two is the fact that we actually see the next scene of him running down the street with the fucking bag. And you're like, okay, maybe I don't see the punch hit the face, but I see the blood come out of the mouth. That's good enough for me. Like I can see maybe I don't see the actual bomb drop, but I see the as it comes, towards the land. Like that's what works for me with this kind of thing. Otherwise, it would feel like a giant pile of exposition. Like there's actually a really good movie. It's super, super underrated. I very much so urge everybody listening to this to check out Jerome Bixby's The Man from Earth. And this was a movie that was made in like 2006. Yeah. Yes, very good. But it's a guy trying to make a group of people believe that he's a caveman, basically. But there's no flashbacks. It's all set in one room. It's got like Tony Todd. It's got like a shit ton of like semi-decent actors in it. But it basically ends up like there's no flashbacks or anything. It's all him just telling like a campfire story, trying to get people to believe him. And at first you don't think that I was like, dude, this doesn't sound really all that cool. And it was good enough that the first one was huge, and it's one of the highest rated sci-fi films on IMDb, and they made a fucking second one like 10 years later because of it.
Jerome Bixby sounds like a porn star.
Yeah, right. And I think he worked with Gene Roddenberry too. I think they worked on Star Trek together. I think.
So it looks like, yeah. I think I don't know if they worked on Star Trek. I can see that they worked on. I mean, like he worked with the Twilight Zone, right? I mean.
Yeah, he did because I think Man from Earth was the last thing he did, and then he died, and that was 15 years ago.
I'm here to fix your plumbing. What's your name? Jerome Bixby.
Yeah, right.
Wow, Johnny Sins. Let's get into this, dude. Like, this is the foot chase, right? This cut to the foot chase, just bam, here it is. Like, there's no like fade in or anything. It's just like, here we are. We're running down the street. This tracking shot, dude, is incredible. It's long. It goes on for so long, dude. Like just the way he's running, like the very like wide footed steps. Oh, it's fantastic. As he bumps into someone, we get the Wilhelm scream. Do you know about this?
Yeah,
The Wilhelm
yeah.
scream? The ah!
Right. I think it's in all of Tarantino's movies at this point too.
It's in all of Star Wars. I remember the first time hearing it was in Toy Story, the first Toy Story. It's when Buzz kind of like gets knocked out the window, dude. It's good. Like and like every time me and like my brother hear this scream, we always like, oh, that's a fucking Star Wars scream. Like, you know,
Right.
like when one of the stormtroopers falls off like the platform when they're in the Death Star.
When Pink turns the corner and he, get the fuck out of the car, and he breaks that window. He hauls that woman out. Hey, I can't believe it's insane how fast he gets up after putting like a Kool-Aid man-sized dent in that fucking windshield.
Can we talk about him unloading on these cops, man?
Dude, that's the
fuck.
It's not only the unloading, it's the fact that we're like this far away and then and then we're up on his back. And there if you pay attention, like I watch that scene religiously, probably too much.
Me too. This is probably my favorite kind of like, I guess, quote, action scene.
Yeah,
unquote.
it's about the most action-y it gets in this movie, minus like the Mexican standoff. But you can see a little bit of the editing fuckery, like as he's unloading, the fat cop kind of like as he's shooting falls down, and then when it cuts to the cop's point of view, he falls down again, and you're like, okay, that kind of ruined it. But yeah, there is something about that. One of those cops is Lawrence Bender, actually, like Tarantino's producer of like all of his shit. But dude, just the unhesitant, Val Kilmer walking out of the bank in heat, just smiling 1 second and half a second later be like, fuck. And you're like, oh my God.
The relentless shooting of the police, dude. Like, it's crazy. Like, you don't see that shit in movies anymore. You just don't.
No.
You don't see like police officers getting actually shot in film anymore.
Maybe except for something like The Town, and it's still nothing like this or Heat or anything. But I love what Pacino says in Heat, where he's like, at the drop of a dime, these guys will rock and roll. And it's like, yeah, dude, this is, it's a war. It's a fucking war. Like, and it doesn't. The thing is, it really shows you that at a personal level, these cops and these, cops and robbers could sit down and eat breakfast together. But when they put those badges on, when they put that role on, it's that same thing in Heat, where he's like, we sit down and we have a cup of coffee, and yeah, that's cool, but it's like, don't think I'll hesitate to fucking kill you, man. Like, that's what sucks, is you can feel these guys would actually probably get along, 'cause there's a similarity in they're professionals, like Neil McCauley. Do you see me rolling around with a Born to Lose tattoo on my chest? And he's like, no, like, I'm a fucking professional, man. Then I think there's like almost a level of respect between these guys, but between Camp A and Camp B. And I really like that. The fact that there's not a whole lot of difference except the side of morality and what benefits you from at the end of the day once this has been accomplished. That's what's really interesting to me about these movies. Now, sure, it's awesome watching Mr. Pink shoot fucking cops like 12 times, but at the same time, it's like just seeing these guys, the same person, just on different sides of the law, is really fucking cool.
Because, baby, you are going down.
That's good.
This all feels very GTA, dude. Every time we're in kind of like this, like downtown LA, bank robbery, there's fucking guns being fired, there's helicopters flying above. It feels very Grand Theft Auto to me. Apparently, the budget didn't stretch so far that they're able to get like police assistance for traffic control, so they could only do this scene when the traffic lights were green.
Yeah, because you can see, like, he's running down the street, he's unloading this gun, and then the traffic just keeps going. I was like, are you kidding me?
So Pink asks White if he killed anybody. White answers yes. Dude, I love Pink's response. No real people.
Yes, I love it, dude. That's great.
I remember back when, the George Floyd thing was happening, this was all over Twitter. Like this like kind of
really?
moment was all over Twitter because I mean, like, there's the whole, fuck the police kind of thing happening.
Right.
So like, no real people, I just remember it being all over Twitter. Yeah. White talks about Blonde's shooting spree being one of the most insane fucking things he's ever seen. Again, we're getting Blonde's reputation before we see him commit any violence at all.
We haven't even seen him. Well, no, we've seen him once.
Right, exactly. We haven't even, dude, he's fucking having breakfast. We haven't seen him do anything, like, it's such a brilliant way to do exposition. It's fantastic. He talks about Blonde killing a 21-year-old black girl and him being unable to work with psychopaths. We find out Pink was able to make away with the diamonds. He was able to stash them before meeting White, and they wonder where everybody is. They should be here by now. White thinks that he's jinxed. A job in the past he worked had an undercover cop in it, and this seeds the idea in Pink that one of them is a cop. This is kind of like one of those things where if you bring up the idea, once you start down that road, there's no going back, right? You're going to suspect literally everyone, dude. You're going to be suspecting the fucking milkman walking past the door. Like, it's just, you're questioning everything and everyone. Dude, I love this. For all I know, you're the fucking rat. Like, it's just them kind of like already like at odds with each other. White stands up for Orange, and it's just, dude, like it's heartbreaking to see the level of trust that White has for Orange already. Like, like he's like, that guy's, he's bleeding out over there. He's definitely not a cop. Like, it's heartbreaking, like there's a level of trust that White has in Orange, and it's just, once you're seeing this for a second time or a third time or whatever, it's the level of I'm going to go bat for this guy.
Right. It's like ironic tragedy. It's like, God, like, well, there's also something in the fact of like, getting shot in the stomach, like, fuck, that sucks. And, it's in a way, it's almost a death sentence, like depending on how long he lays there on the floor. But at the same time, it also prevents them from A, asking him any questions, B, throwing any shade at him. Like, it's almost like a shield for him to be like, dude, I'm the cop. I took a fucking bullet, dude. Like, don't tell me I'm a cop. Like, that's the interesting thing about it, is it's kind of like in movies where you see guys do drug deals and like, all right, snort a line of this shit. Like, all right, fuck it, I'll snort a line. Because it's like, I need to, you need to be a co-conspirator in this. Like, I need to see you give something up.
You need to build credibility.
Right, exactly.
We get this flashback with Joe and White. Joe's giving White the lowdown, 5-man job, 2 minutes exposure, daylight during business hours, 20 employees. On this day, they're getting a shipment of polished stones from Israel. What's the cut, Papa? Juicy, Junior. Real juicy. There's something interesting here. He mentions Bama. He's like, so how's Bama? He's like, I haven't seen Bama in about a year and a half. Now, this was Alabama from True Romance. Like, this is something where, True Romance was written by Tarantino. It could just be a name that he used again. It's not necessarily the same character, but a lot of people have pointed at that because he does kind of Vic Vega, Vincent Vega. There's like Dr. King Schultz. There's another Schultz in like a cemetery. Like it's Stephen King does that as well. Like a lot of people do that where they repeat a lot of these names and build their own little universe sprinkled throughout. Well,
like a lot of people.
Scagnetti is another one.
Yeah, Scagnetti. I think in Django he said Broomhilda von Shaft. She is Shaft's, like Samuel L. Jackson's great-great-grandmother or something. And I was like, okay, that's fucking cool, I don't know. It could just be a name that he wanted to use again because it was finally his movie that he was making. But I just thought that was cool. That name Bama, that's not something you can go past easily,
Absolutely. Apparently Lawrence Tierney was really hard to work with on this movie.
Yeah.
Apparently, like this time he's kind of like a cinema, I'm not going to say legend. I really haven't seen anything with him in, but like he's built his career,
royalty.
Right, exactly. When I hear something wild, dude, apparently on a day off during the shoot, Tierney was arrested for allegedly pulling a gun on his nephew. According to Tarantino, Tierney was taken from his bail arrangement to the set.
Yeah, I read that. And he's fucking Elaine's dad in like the first or second season of Seinfeld. This is the only time you ever see him. But yeah, he's in like Silver Bullet, the Corey Haim werewolf movie. He pops up in that for a second.
No. You mean the goddamn, not Corey Haim. Fuck, why am I fucking forgetting his name? Who else is in that movie? Fucking crazy guy.
Oh, Gary Busey.
Yes, Jesus Christ. I was like the Gary Busey werewolf movie. Okay,
there's something about Lawrence Tierney with his eyes. You just close your eyes and you pull it up. Said,
dude, he might as well be Asian. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Dude, he and Michael Madsen got into it a lot. Michael Madsen was like, dude, do you need a fucking script to remember your lines? Like, he had this almost like Brando approach of like, fuck that, I don't remember my... Like, apparently him and Michael Madsen did not get along at all.
That doesn't surprise me. Michael Madsen... We'll talk about Michael Madsen when we get to like kind of like his introduction.
Super
like
method, yeah.
Yeah, really method. So White's looking out for Orange, telling Pink that Joe could help and that he could get him to a doctor. Of course, like it's this hardened criminal feeling for a guy that like this guy that he just met. White admits to Pink that Orange knows his first name and where he's from, and Pink just blows up at this, right? Why?
Oof.
Why? Dude, I love Orange. Like, I mean, sorry, I love White coming back to Pink. He asked!
Yes. Oh, dude, I almost did this for a monologue once in high school where he's, that whole thing of when he's like, he's sitting there bleeding and dying on the floor, everything will be okay. I'll take care of him. What the fuck was I supposed to do? And I'm like, oh, dude, you really kind of feel the fact that if it were any of these guys, I think Mr. White would be like, if he's holding Mr. Pink, being like, dude, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this guy? Like, A, he's a liability. An injured man talks, but B, I'm just trying to make this guy feel that he's a kid. He's probably the youngest guy out of everybody here. There's a certain camaraderie. And I think that it helps when we have those scenes where they're going over the heist together. And he's like, all right, where's Mr. Blonde? Where's Mr. Blue? What about that girl's ass? It's sitting here on my dick. Like you have those kind of scenes, but I could almost use like one or two more of them, maybe just one more scene of the two of them to help kind of build this up. It's not that it's lacking, but I could use just one more of it. You know what I mean? To kind of really build, like, I would love to see the scene where he's holding him and he's like, oh my God, I'm shot, I'm dying. And he's like, what's your name? He's like, my name's Larry. And it's like, oh, like I would die for that scene. That sounds so fucking cool.
I could see there being an extended version of this movie. Like, I mean, like 100 minutes is lean as fuck, dude.
Especially for how much happens.
Right, especially for how much happens. When you compare the runtime of this to The Hateful Eight, which is 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and it's one location, it is, look, I'm not going to say, I think every line of dialogue in Hateful Eight is absolutely outstanding. I love it because I can listen to it all day. And, Walton Goggins is in that movie, and I just love Walton Goggins. There is a certain level of bloat in that movie, like whereas here it's just super streamlined.
I actually have a huge Reservoir Dogs poster. It's like the size of a fucking closet door. It's huge. It's in my office, and it's not the typical. It's Mr. White and Mr. Pink when they have their guns on each other, but if it's kind of hard to describe. It's the VHS cover, and all you see if you're looking at the box is like Mr. White's gun pointing down, and it's silhouette of Mr. Pink holding his gun up, and it's like the tagline is like four strangers. It's something. It's like four strangers, one cop, and by the end, nobody will trust each other. It's something really, really cool, and I can't remember. I'm trying to look it up real quick.
Well, and this is the first of two times this is going to come up. Sean O'Connell's podcast, Real Blend. Sean O'Connell, we had him on for an interview. Real Blend. There's a guy on that show called Kevin McCarthy. He's one of the co-hosts. He talks about, like, he's this massive, like, Quentin Tarantino fan. He's got Tarantino, like, tattoos and shit. He talks about, like, how when he was younger, he bought, when this released on home video, there was a version of each kind of color. So there was a version of, like,
that's
video.
Cool.
Yeah, and he's like, dude, I went around and I bought every single color. Like, it's awesome, dude.
I actually just sent you that poster. I just sent it to you. Yeah, the tagline is four perfect killers, cool. 4 perfect killers, 1 perfect crime. All they have to fear is each other. And you're like, oh fuck, dude, I love that poster. One of my favorite posters of all time.
It's awesome, dude. Well, we're about to get to that scene event, like, real soon, right? So, this is, like you said, you already talked about the kind of like monologue that Keitel goes on here. This is one of my favorite monologues in the entire film. Like, what the fuck was I supposed to do? Tell him I'm sorry. I don't trust you with that information. Fuck you and fuck Joe. And dude, the way Pink kind of like diffuses this, but not really. I'm sure it was a very beautiful scene.
That's so in with his character, though. I fucking love it. Like it's just so, because he doesn't give a fuck. It's like, I don't, dude, that's not what we're here for. Like, I can appreciate the fact that you're trying to like deal with this situation, but that's not your call to make, man.
Well, interestingly as well, Pink is the voice of reason here, right? I mean, like, saying that Orange knows his name, what he looks like, his specialty, and where he's from. This is all logical and makes 100% sense. Like, like, this is not, like, while we as human beings, we put our shoes in White's shoes, right? We put ourselves in White's shoes because we would feel a level of sympathy for this guy who's dying, right? Like, we would probably toy with the fact of telling him our name, like, just to make him feel comfortable, like, like that he's not going to die in some stranger's arms. But Pink is thinking very logically. Like, he's just like, man, like, why the fuck did you tell me your name? Now he's got probably every single piece of identifiable information to trace this back to you. And if he gets sweated by the cops, you're going down.
Well, him knowing you puts him one step closer to me is basically what he's saying. And but what's also interesting is we see where he doesn't even know his name yet. And when Orange is talking to Holdaway, his undercover cop buddy, he's like, so he's from Milwaukee. Okay, so why don't we look at all the people who have served hard time for armed robbery? You put a name with a face. It's like, so you don't even know his name at this point, but they're already trying to crack who this guy is, and he's just giving this guy more information, and it almost makes you realize, like, how the fuck is Mr. White, who's Lawrence Dimmick is his real name? Like, how is Larry Dimmick? How has he been this good if he cracks this easily? You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like, because he seems the oldest besides Joe. Like, he almost seems like he was Mr. Pink and then later on became Mr. White, like, kind of soft. You know what I mean?
It could be, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, it could be that he was like, yeah, a very young and hardened criminal. I think age here is a very, very relevant factor, right? Like, Buscemi's character is young. Like, he's very honed in on what he has to do. He what level of professionalism that he needs to kind of like keep up with. Whereas White is this much older guy who doesn't really give a fuck anymore. Like, doesn't really give a shit. He cares about this guy who's dying in his arms.
Dude, I tell you what, something crazy just from these deleted scenes. This is from Mr. White's filmography, or his wiki. Like, there are deleted scenes where he shot up a whole party of like police officers and killed all of them. Like, it's super fucked up. But in a deleted scene where Mr. Orange is investigating his background, he's born June 19th, 1958 in Milwaukee. Like, all this information. He has a history of juvenile problems, alcoholic parents. His parents divorced when he was 3, and his mother died when he was 8. He goes by aliases, blah, 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 blah. He was arrested for drinking in public and fined $25. Like, all of this shit. Like, it's insane. Like, the level of detail that was left out. And it almost makes me like, thank God, dude. Thank God they didn't include this much stuff. There's one where, there's something where basically there were all these cops, and it's the only female who was in this movie, and it's a deleted scene between Mr. Orange and Holdaway, and they're eating lunch together, and she has this rap sheet, and she's telling him the story of Mr. White showing up to this like party with all these cops, and he just kills all of them, and you're like, oh, what the fuck? So even though Mr. Orange, you kind of like Mr. White, you realize, like, dude, you showed up and murdered a room full of innocent people. That's kind of nuts. Like, it kind of pushes him more like Mr. Blonde in a way.
Tell you what, man, if Twitter got wind that the only female in this movie was cut and this movie was made today, everyone's boycotting Tarantino. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So, we get into a scuffle. They end up in that iconic stance from that poster. Like, this, I mean, there's just something about the way they end up in this, like, position, dude. It's awesome. With Pink pointing the gun up at White while White looks down on him. Zoom out. Dude, this pan, as we just pan all the way back to the door, and we see Mr. Blonde just standing there, right? Wearing shades indoors while sipping on a soda like nothing's fucking happened. It's outstanding, man. Like, it tells us so much about his character.
That's not my fault. I didn't tell him my name. I didn't tell him where I was from. You want to fucking throw bad looks? You throw him in a fucking mirror. It's like, God, I love that. I love that exchange, dude. It's so good.
White demands that Blonde starts talking. Okay. Let's talk. They tell him that this place isn't safe and that they should go someplace else. Dude, I love his response. Nobody's going anywhere. It's the calm demeanor, right? Like, it's the I'm in charge and I'm in control here, so don't fucking worry about it. Like, that's right. That's everything. The whole blasé attitude to just the shooting spree, like, fuck them. They deserve what they got. Like, man, like, what the fuck? Right. What are you talking about?
I don't like alarms, Mr. White. Like, oh, that's your fucking excuse? Like, holy shit.
For sure. And then, of course, we get probably my favorite line in the entire movie. Are you going to bark all day, little doggy, or are you going to bite?
Oh, dude.
Fuck yes.
They start rumbling, and he's like, listen, like, chill the fuck out, Baba. He's like, I bet you're a big Lee Marvin fan, aren't you? It's just something like I'm not even like I'm not even really all that well versed on who the fuck Lee Marvin is, but there's something about the fact that like just from this little exchange, he's so eccentric, and we haven't really talked about this is John Travolta's brother in this universe.
Yes, yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to the flashback with John Blonde. But yeah, no, essentially, like, this is Buscemi calms them down, uses the N-word, by the way, right? Something that Tarantino has caught a lot of shit over for the course of his career. We talked about it very briefly in Django. But again, he's the voice of reason here, calming these guys down, telling them to focus on who the bad guy is. And again, the term bad guy here is very relative because we're talking about a cop, right? Where we're surrounded by bad guys. The entire movie is led by bad guys. Blonde says that there's something out in the car that they want him to see. What, French fries to go with your soda? Nah, I already had them.
Dude, I can't go past the line where he's like, you said yourself you were thinking about taking him out. He's like, you fucking said that? Like, Mr. Blonde looks kind of hurt. And he's like, yeah, I did. But dude, yeah, his leveling of he's like, somebody's shoving a red hot poker up my ass. And the thing is, that's another thing. Orange being injured takes away the fact that he might be a cop. It throws you off of his scent. But also the same way with Blonde being this like psychopath who murders people. There's no fucking way this guy's a cop. It's the perfect cover of just like, it's like the thing that also is kind of scary about him makes you comfort in him. The fact that that he can't be a fucking cop. He just murdered all these innocent people. But yeah, he's like, all right, I'm pretty sure you're okay. And I fucking know you're on the level. Dude, his delivery is great, man.
I guess this is probably the most relevant time to talk about this. When they go out to get Officer Marvin Nash, we get the Tarantino trunk shot, of course. But Michael Madsen says that the actor who plays Marvin Nash, Kirk Boltz, asked to ride in his trunk to experience what it was really like. And Madsen agreed. But decided as he went along that this was the time for his own character development. So he drove around a long alley with potholes and then stopped at a Taco Bell drive-thru before taking Boltz back to the parking lot and letting him out. The soda that he ordered at the drive-thru is the same one he can be seen drinking during his character's first appearance in the warehouse.
That's awesome. That's his fucking car, too.
Amazing. Yeah, that's his car, dude. Like he talks about this also on Real Blend. They recently had him on as like a guest, and he talks about this in detail. Like I recommend going and searching for that Real Blend interview because they also interview Tarantino as well. They talk to him, dude. That's the longest interview I've seen Tarantino do. It's like 2 hours long. It's great. It's fucking unabridged.
Oh wow,
that's probably one of my favorite pieces of trivia in any movie ever. Just the fact that he had this guy out in his trunk, driving around, stopped at a fucking Taco Bell.
I was watching the making of this, and that guy is like, yeah, I'm sitting there in the trunk, and then I hear like, I'm gonna have with your order. He's like, oh, what the fuck? And he said he stopped and was like, in the dark of this trunk, just kind of like looking around, like, where the fuck am I, dude?
Can you imagine if he got pulled over? Like, just can you imagine
a guy
that?
dressed up as a cop in your fucking trunk?
Fuck.
That's gotta be. I'm an actor.
I'm in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
Flashback with Joe and Mr. Blonde. We find out that his name Vic Vega. Of course, Colin, you already said Vincent Vega from Pulp Fiction. Tarantino's been flirting with the idea forever, and we will never get it, of making a Double V Vega film. Titled Double V Vega. It was going to take place in Las Vegas and things like that. Again, this is all actually in the Tarantino interview, like that I listened to with the Real Blend. So if you want to check it out, it's all there. There's so much history about this. Seymour Scagnetti is Blonde's parole officer. Apparently, he's a fucking asshole. Scagnetti, we already said, comes up in Natural Born Killers. He's played by Tom Sizemore. That's Jack Scagnetti, though. Like, I think his brother.
Right. Let me ask you something real quick before we get off the subject. In that interview with Tarantino, because I've heard the Double V for Vega was going to be, because at the beginning of Pulp Fiction, he goes to Europe, Vincent, and he's in prison. So there's some kind of event that sent them both away, that sent them both in like different directions. Did he say that's, because I've heard that's what the movie was going to be about, is the incident that led one of them in jail and led one of them to Europe. Is that, am I correct?
So according to Tarantino, I'm just reading this because this is what I think this is verbatim what he said on Real Blend. It would have taken place in Amsterdam during the time that Vincent was in Amsterdam. In Pulp Fiction, he's just come back from Amsterdam and he's telling the story and everything. So he was running some club for Marcellus Wallace in Amsterdam. He was probably there for a couple of years. At some point during his 2 years, spent running the club. Vic shows up and visits him, and it would have been their weekend. Exactly what happened to them or what kind of trouble they got into, I never took it that far.
Okay, because see, I'd heard before it was going to be like some kind of heist, some kind of job that they tried to do, and it goes sour, and Vic goes to prison, and Vincent runs to Europe. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, that's kind of a cool idea.
That's the first time I'm hearing about that. I didn't think that was in the Real Blend interview, but yeah.
Dude, I am so down for a comic book of that. Just give me a graphic novel, dude, or a book. Like, I'm down with that, dude. I'm so down.
This is, a nice guy Eddie and Blonde wrestling. Eddie says that he, should have picked him up. Blonde is close to these two. Again, which kind of like answers our question as to how this loose cannon got assigned to this heist, right? Because Joe kind of like comes across as efficient, right? Like he knows kind of like what he's doing, but he's swayed by his son who's very close to Vic, right? So it's like, I'm going to sway you into picking this loose cannon that you don't really know, but at the same time, you're still someone friends with.
Yeah, well, I don't even know that it's so much that he doesn't know him. Like, I think he loves Eddie and Joe to the point where he fucking did like 5 years or less for him, like, because he wasn't going to rat him out. And the thing is, basically that's the whole thing that blows up in Orange's face later is the fact that he, went and did time for them and didn't rat them out because he's such good friends with them. But the thing that really gets me is when he's like, now, Dad, I know you don't like using the boys on these job. And you see Joe go immediately like, I'm the
grumbling. Yeah.
Right. But there's something about when the mischievous look on his face where he's like, how would you feel about doing a job with 5 other guys? And he's like, dude, there is so much like, I don't know what happened to him in the pen, or, I don't know what kind of drop the soap shower games went on. Like something happened to him in prison that has fucked this guy up. Because I also get the feeling that like these guys are not that closely associated with a fucking psychopath. Like these guys are professionals. These guys are Mr. White. Like that's the thing is like, I feel like something happened along the way to turn him into this version of Mr. Blonde. Like Vincent's not like this. Vincent's not a fucking psychopath. Like what happened that turned him into this version of Mr. Blonde? I think that's interesting.
That is interesting. They talk about prison, right? Black semen pumped up the ass. Keep talking like a bitch. I'm going to slap you like a bitch.
I love that line, dude. I say that all the fucking time, dude.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, Hit Girl uses that line in Kick-Ass. Keep talking like a bitch.
That's awesome.
Slapped like a, yeah. I think I might be wrong. I remember Chloe Moretz saying it, but it might be something else. Tells Eddie that his parole officer is Cagnetti, won't even let him leave the halfway house unless he gets a shitty job, has a silly ass 10 o'clock curfew. We'll get you a job in Long Beach working as a dock worker. And they say, Vic, you don't have to lift shit. As far as you're concerned, you don't even work there, but the records will show you do. Joe's hesitant to bring Blonde in on the job. Eddie makes a case for him. How would you feel about pulling a job with about 5 other guys? Feel great about it. And then we cut to black.
That laugh is ominous, dude. It sucks. It's like, ugh. It's so bad.
Dude, what do you say about taking a break right here? I gotta take a piss.
Yeah, I'm down. I gotta piss and I gotta blow my nose.
Yeah, well, guys, we'll be right back with more Reservoir Dogs, but don't worry, you guys aren't gonna get any ads because you pay for this shit. So I'm not gonna give you fucking, hey, sign up to fucking Patreon bullshit. We'll see you guys soon.
Welcome back to Midnight Double Feature Super Sounds of the 70s weekend where the 70s survived.
Dude, we have not talked about Stephen Wright, by the way. Dude, have you ever listened to Stephen Wright's like stand up? He's fucking hilarious, dude. He's really funny.
First time I've heard of that name ever in my life.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's the DJ and he's a fantastic stand-up comic. But we're jumping back at you. Second half, Reservoir Dogs. I don't know who's alive. I don't know who's dead. I don't know who's caught. I don't know who's not. That's such a good dude. Chris Penn. I love this little scene of him right here. Kind of in the car after we get this like our little backstory on on Blonde, really. But he's basically saying, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Talk to. I love that he calls Joe daddy. That cracks me up.
It's a fucking little creepy. Like, it's a bit wild.
This is also a guy who wears a windbreaker and has gold chains. So it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Dude, he died at 40.
Yeah. He died really 40? God damn, that's young.
40.
What year was that?
So 2006, found dead in his Santa Monica condo. An autopsy and subsequent toxicology report performed by LA County revealed the primary cause of death was a heart disease. I mean, he was not a thin man.
No, dude, have you ever seen him in Footloose? He's in fantastic shape. It's insane.
Oh, really? Well, fuck. I'm going to Google him.
He is incredibly tall and like thin. And like he's not obese in this movie, but when you watch something like Corky Romano, you're like, dude, you packed on a lot of weight, man. He did a lot of drugs too.
Even in even in Rush Hour, he's pretty big. I mean, he's pretty pudgy. That was like 7 years before he passed away, I think.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Also, Sean Penn, if you've ever seen him in Milk, where he plays Harvey Milk, that's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, you've mentioned
really
that before.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, we got him racking up to the scene. They're beating the shit out of this cop. I fucking love this. Trying to get some kind of information out of him. Like, God, that seems like such a juvenile thing, and this is where they're kind of discussing the whole, somebody set us up thing. I like that immediately Eddie is the one who just dismisses that. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? And he's like, no, nobody set anybody up. That's fucking bullshit. I fucking love that dude. But as soon as he walked in, he's like, holy shit, Orange is dead.
Dude, like the puddle, the blood puddle that grows throughout the movie, right? Like, it's an insane amount of blood. And like they had to literally like peel Tim Roth off the floor, like, because the blood just dried up, man. Like, that shit is crazy.
Right, yeah. That, like, just having to like reapply that all the time and just sitting in this puddle of shit.
I've always loved just like Blonde just sitting up there on top of the shit, like, just so casually, dude. Like, he's just up there,
Right. Well, and the guy who literally caused most of this is just sitting up there like a fucking just a little devil on top. He's sitting up there like Max Cady and Cape Fear on the fence post, just sitting there like watching him.
Bum, bum, bum. I have to do it. Every time someone mentions Cape Fear. It has to be done.
Yeah, this is where basically he's like, I got a few fucking questions on my own. Somebody, please, just a little favor from me. Somebody tell me where the fucking diamonds are. They arrange a doctor for, Mr. Orange. And this is where he kind of, Mr. White lays it out. He's like, dude, you think I'm pissed? I'm pissed at Joe. This guy's a fucking psychopath. Bam, 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 bam. Like that whole, and you can kind of see Eddie look at Blonde like, you fucked up, dude. You fucked up big. Like, you can kind of feel that tension in the scene, and it's great. Apparently there's something funny, that door that opens up and then White crosses the room. I don't think that's intentional.
I read that too. Yeah. It opened on like accident. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, it's just something, I'm glad they left it in.
Well, we didn't talk about, I was about to talk about like, Keitel's kind of like commitment to the scene and like not breaking character, but we didn't talk about the fact that this movie could not have been made without Keitel. Like, he, went to bat for Tarantino and for this script.
Right, like Lawrence Bender was in like a yoga class or something with Harvey Keitel's wife. Like, seriously, like I don't know what the exact like dynamics of it were, but basically she got the script and then Harvey Keitel read it, and they were flying somewhere. They were pitching this movie, and Harvey Keitel's flying in first class, and Lawrence Bender and Quentin Tarantino show up. And they're in coach. He's like, boys, someday you'll be up here with me, but when you're on my dime, you're flying coach. And they fucking had to fly coach. Like, that's great. But yeah, I mean, Harvey Keitel basically sparked Tarantino's career. He's the one who, and also, and I think a lot of people leave out Lawrence Bender's name in that as well. Like, Tarantino eventually would have been a name, but still Lawrence Bender had the thing that kind of gave him the edge in there. I think that's worth mentioning. He's like, he's like, we got to get out of here. It looks like Sam's hot car light. God, I can't say it in his voice. Like Sam's hot car light out there. But I love the way he breaks it down. They're arguing back and forth. They're bickering. He's like, all right, here's the news. Blondie, you stay here. You two come with me. Because if Joe goes back here and sees all these cars, he's going to be just as pissed as you and I am. I'm like, oh, that's fucking great, dude. And you just know as soon as he hops down off the back of that hearse, you're like, nothing good is about to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he does it as soon as the door closes, right? I mean, it's just
Right.
like it's like he was waiting for this to happen. Like, you know, he's just like, as soon as these motherfuckers leave, I'm gonna have my way with this guy, man. Like, this is, I mean, like, just the, this is so unsettling, man. Like, you know, like the whole like now,
Yeah.
where were we? Like, you know, it's just like now that they're gone, let's have some fun. And it's just, man, like this. Like, apparently even Michael Madsen had a hard time acting his way through this scene. Like, this was really apparently unsettling to him, and I'm not surprised.
Well, and the guy who plays Marvin Mash, they said he really fucking threw him a curveball because Michael Madsen had just had his first kid. And this guy, Marvin Nash, was like, please, I got a baby at home. And all of a sudden, Michael Madsen's like, dude, he can't say that. And Quentin Tarantino's like, yes, he can. We're leaving it in. Fucking do it. But yeah, there's something interesting about I wonder if it's like, because of motherfuckers like you, I had to serve hard time and had horrible shit happen to me, and that's why I'm going to torture you, like kind of thing. But I mean, I don't want to jump, too far ahead, but we're pretty much there. We get that. I love him pulling the razor blade out. You like Kay and Billy's super sounds of the 70s? Like, I love his delivery. Just this real calm, chill guy who's about to cut your fucking ear off. Like, this is infamous, dude. Him dancing back and forth to Steeler's wheel. Now, do you know the story behind like the ear, like the whole ear thing? How this ended up getting From Dusk Till Dawn made?
No, please enlighten me.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm pretty sure it's Greg Nicotero. I didn't do my research, but I'm pretty sure Greg Nicotero did the. Yeah, right. I'm pretty sure Greg Nicotero did the ear thing, and he kind of came up with the story for From Dusk Till Dawn.
I've got it actually.
Go for it.
It's Robert Kurtzman, who did the special effects makeup, on the condition that Tarantino write a script for From Dusk Till Dawn, based on a story by Kurtzman. And Kurtzman is a huge writer. Like he wrote the Star Trek 2009 film, like he wrote Transformers, with his writing partner Robert Orsi.
But yeah, basically that's the story. Yeah, that they traded. You basically get one of the most iconic scenes with like a fucking awesome Robert Rodriguez movie. That's badass.
The juxtaposition of Stuck in the Middle with You, combined with the darkness and horrifying circumstances, like that is just brilliant, man. Like just the underscoring of like this really lighthearted music, like behind this obviously crazy circumstance that's happening right now. It's brilliant. I love the diegetic music, like as he walks out to, like you hear the music fade out as he leaves the warehouse and then fade back in when he comes back in. I've always loved the way Tarantino's used music in his films.
Yeah.
And like this is no exception, dude. This is fucking amazing.
That like diegetic or non-diegetic, always get confused.
Right. Diegetic is when it's in the movie.
That's right. So yeah, KNB actually is Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger, KNB. And I was like, okay, cool. I just wanted to be 100% sure. But yeah, him walking out, the fade of the music, dude, when he cuts the ear off and he's like, hey, anybody hear me in this thing? Like,
oh my God, man.
I fucking laughed so hard. It's so dark, man.
Probably one of the most unsettling moments in the movie. And like, granted, the guy gets his fucking ear cut off, so that's like way up there. But for me, it's like before he turns the music on, and he's already duct taped his mouth, so he can't talk. But it's the way he raises the gun, and it's the way the cop just is like shifting in his chair, moving his head. Man, like that is so effective. So effective.
It's like watching a fish out of water on the bank just flop. And it's like, ugh. Yeah, this whole scene is absolutely, I mean, him screaming and I don't fucking know anything. Or like, hey, let me tell you something, buddy. I don't have a boss. And you're like, oh, dude, you're walking on eggshells around this fucking guy. Like immediately, like what is going to set this guy off? What the fuck is going to happen?
This scene was kind of like, was one of those scenes before I'd watched this movie, and I watched this movie way too young. Maybe I was 13 or something. But this was a scene that you know what I used to do? I used to jump on IMDb when I was younger. And I used to go through trivia of like random movies that I'd always wanted to watch. So like, like Reservoir Dogs, like movies like Kill Bill, movies that you kind of like heard about on the playground and, like kind of like they built up this reputation. And I remember this scene. Like, I remember reading about this ear cutting scene and like it being so, like the reading about it, it sounded like so graphic and horrifying. And it is, it
Right.
absolutely is. But I remember the first time I saw this, when it pans up, when he actually starts cutting his ear, because it pans up to that archway. And it's like, what's it say? Watch your head or something. You don't actually see the
Yeah.
separation of the ear from the head. I remember thinking, what, like, wow, like you don't actually see the actual dismemberment, right? Like that this whole
Right.
scene was like steeped in legend for me. Like, like what I'd built up in my mind was way worse than what happens in the movie. And I think the aftermath of the ear cutting scene is what's more horrifying, because there's like a clear shot of like Nash without the ear, but you can see like the kind of like the ribbing or the ridges of the
Yes.
ear like having been removed. Ugh.
Yeah. Dude, well there's also something about him cutting it off. He straddles him and cuts, the way he sits on him and cuts his fucking ear off. But you look 2 years later to the more horrible version of this with Marcellus Wallace getting raped in Pulp Fiction. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, man! Like that scene is not. It's not like just so out of place in Pulp Fiction. But I remember, you see Butch's hand touch the door and just push it open, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck,
Well,
dude?
I mean, I'd seen Pulp Fiction before I was like introduced to that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't know what gimps were. I didn't know what the fuck like all this shit was. And then like here we have a guy getting raped, a guy in a fucking gimp suit. Like, I was like, that was a different world to me, dude. And I was like watching that as a kid. I must have been the same age, or around 13, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
I love it's like, hey Zed, yeah, Spider's got a couple of flies in his trap, and you're like, oh fuck, that's terrifying. So yeah, we have this infamous torture scene. This has been parodied. I remember this being parodied on The Simpsons when I was a kid. I remember they had Tarantino, like he's like, yeah, see, this is about the sociological, and then Itchy and Scratchy kill him, and like it's on an episode of like old Simpsons, dude. So of course, he goes out and gets the gas can. He's going to light him up. This is really hard to fucking watch, man. But I was watching this with my girlfriend. Lindsay had never seen this before. Lindsay's
Whoa,
never sat down
really?
and watched this.
Wow.
Yeah. And as we're watching it, I only started it from like, I knew the movie pretty well. And I'm going to watch my half because I've already kind of watched the second half. Like I'd already watched the first half during the day. It's like, I'm going to watch the second half now and sit down and like really watch it. And she's watching the scene and she's like, oh, is this where he cuts his ear off? I'm like, yeah. And she's watching it. She's like, what the fuck? He's like, hey, are you done? All right. And then all of a sudden the squibs start going off on Michael Madsen. And I could just kind of side-eyed her and she's like, at her face, she's like, what the fuck? And you look at Tim Roth, and I didn't realize this. When Tim Roth is shooting, he doesn't even flinch. His eyes don't even like, oh my God, dude.
But it's such a beautiful shot, dude. I will never forget that shot of like Tim Roth just firing. Yeah, and
It's like
the way
panning.
you pan around him, man. Like it's not a static shot. Like it's beautiful.
Yes, it's so good. And like this actually might be, I don't want to say this is my favorite scene in the movie, but it is so amazing because you have a death, and you don't see a lot of death like on this in this movie. You don't see a lot of people die, like up until this point. And you see Mr. Orange kind of come back to life. You've got him stopping this cop. Like there's a lot of stuff in the scene that just feels right. It feels like yes, like that's awesome.
But talk about like what a gut punch of a moment, right? Like you think at this point that Orange might be either dead or incapacitated, and this was just such a. I remember when I first saw this dude, I was like surprised. I was like, I nearly jumped out of my seat.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's John picking himself up off the floor in Saw and just be like game over. Like that feels like an equivalent of that. But dude, what adds such an insane layer to this, and he's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "My name's Marvin Nash." He's like, "Listen, Marvin Nash, I'm a cop." And you're like, "Oh my God." And then he follows that up with, "Yeah, I know." And he's like,
Yeah.
and like that's still my jaw hits the floor, dude.
There's so much going on here. Yeah, and it's exactly at the 1 hour mark, right? So for the the last hour, Tarantino has been kind of like playing with your sort of emotions. You've been kind of like led you've been giving like clues and breadcrumbs and like, you know, it's all been a mystery as to who the rat is and like how they got themselves into this situation. Like, how did how did 17 cops show up within a minute? Like, something's a bit off. And then like here is where we get all the answers, and man, like it's just amplified because Nash could have easily given up, you know, Orange. Like he just like there was so many. He cut his fucking ear off, and he was still silent.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's what's absolutely terrifying about it is the fact that you're sitting there and you're being cut to pieces, and all you have to do is. But the thing is, even if he goes, "Oh, that guy on the floor, he's a cop," and it's like they're probably not going to believe him, you know, because you beat this prick long enough, he'll tell you he started the Chicago fire,
Right.
you know. So there's something that. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just about to say one of my favorite touches is so Orange blows away Blonde. And after he's been blown away, it's the two times that he raises his gun again to kind of like he did you say that? He kind of like I don't know what he's doing there. Like he just raises it, lowers it, raises it, lowers it. And it's just like
right.
It shows me the level of hate that he has for Blonde, you know? It's great. It's brilliant.
Right. No, there's something there's something about that where it's just like yeah, it's like I catch myself. I actually do that in my sleep. I'll fall asleep and have a dream where I'm like reaching out for something, and I'll literally in the real world go and stick my hand out, and I'll wake up, and I'm like, oh shit.
Lindsay's like, can you get your hands off me, please? What the fuck?
I had that dream. I was punching out Mike Tyson and just fucking beat the shit out of her.
Tom's like, yeah. Please keep petting me.
Yeah. My dog's like, I'm going to go sleep on the couch. Fuck it. But yeah, dude, the whole realization where he's like, yeah, I know you're a cop. You know, your name's Freddie something. He's like, yeah, Freddie Neuendijk. Oh my God, dude. The fact that this guy just sat here and went through all of that shit when he could have just given this guy up at any moment, you know, that's absolutely like Marvin Nash is a fucking hero, dude. Like that's so insane. But I love it. He's like, how do I look? I fucking laugh every time he's like, hey, Freddie, how do I look? And it's like, there's sometimes where I'm like, okay, dude, I know you just had your ear cut off and you're covered in gasoline, but like, you talk like a stroke victim. Like give it like back off a little bit at some point. So talk like a normal person to some degree. It's like this fucking guy cut my ear off, and I'm like, okay, dude, just back it off just a little bit.
There's something here that I just kind of want to point out. It's kind of like this filmmaking technique. So there's a shot of like Marvin Nash, like the back of Marvin Nash's head on the right hand side.
Yes,
and
they're both in focus.
Yeah, so I recently found what this is called. It's called split diopter, and it's used in like Jaws. So there's a shot of this in Jaws as well when that guy on the beach is talking to Brody, and in the background Brody's just watching the people in the beach. And you can kind of see like the blur, like between the shots.
I love those shots.
Yeah, and it's like it's always kind of like really stuck out to me, and I was like, man, how do they do this? Because this is also in Us, it's in Carrie, but apparently, so how did they do? So hold on, I'm trying to find. Goddamn. Use of the split focus lens has declined in recent years. The issue many filmmakers face is such a lens is that it requires commitment to a particular vision, blah, blah. Fuck, I'm trying to find how they did it. God damn it. I had it, but whatever.
Well, dude, and they do the same thing in like Batman Returns when Christopher Walken is coming up the steps and he's like, and there's Danny DeVito writing shit. They do the same thing. I love seeing those in movies.
I found it. So a split diopter lens is a piece of half convex glass that affixes to the main lens of the camera. Like, that is crazy, dude. The fact that they have like another piece of glass over the camera to give that blurred effect, and it's not post, it's not in editing, it's not in post like visual effects or anything.
Oh, okay. That's fucking cool. I always like seeing those a lot. I really do. This where he tells him, yeah, I'm a cop. My name's Freddie Neuendijk. We met 5 months ago at this thing, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm fucking dying here. I'm fucking dying. Like, oh, that's just so good. He's like, you know what? I need you to chill. We're going to sit here and bleed until fucking Joe Cabot sticks his head through that door. And there's cops sitting like 2 blocks away. What the fuck are they waiting for? Like, dude, there's something about his delivery that gets on my nerves after a minute. But I'm like, well, you were almost tortured to death, so I guess I'll let it slide. But dude, I love, this is Tim Roth, like, good God, dude, it's so good. It shows you why. Have you ever, whoa. Have you ever seen Four Rooms?
No, I haven't actually. Like, that's written by him, right?
Well, it's actually, it's a lot of people. It's like Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, and there's two other directors that I'm misremembering. But it's
I'll look it up.
Okay. But basically, Tim Roth is a bellhop in this hotel, and one room is like Madonna, and it's like all these women doing, I can't remember exactly what. One of them is like Antonio Banderas and his wife, and he has to watch their kids, and he's like a mob boss or something. And then another room is like, it's the guy who plays Richie Aprile from Sopranos, and he's like a crazy motherfucker. It's a great movie, dude. He is so animated in it.
So, I mean, like, the other directors are Alison Anders and Alexandra Rockwell, but, like, loosely based on the adult short fiction writings of Roald Dahl? What? I didn't know he wrote adult.
Oh, wow.
Shit. Well, that's crazy.
Loosely based, God knows. But no, that's a great movie. It really is. And they split the bill. It's two female directors and then Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. But the whole movie is really, really great. It's got Antonio Banderas and Madonna and Tim Roth. There's a lot. It's a really good movie. But there's something that's so different from Tim Roth in this, where he's so animated. And he's like, oh, well, of course, sir. And he's almost like Mr. Bean in that movie. It's insane. It's very different. But yeah, I mean, right here, we're getting Orange's backstory here. We meet Holdaway. He's like, I'm in there. I'm in up his ass. Like, I love Tim Roth, but God, his dialect in this is just atrocious, dude. It's so bad.
I wonder how old he was at this time. He looked super young.
Yeah, he's babyface like a motherfucker. I mean, this is 92.
So he was born in 61. Oh, yeah, he's 29. Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, because I was thinking 81, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's 20 and 81.
This diner dude looks like the diner from Pulp Fiction, the start of it, when he's like, I love you, honey bunny.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't this look like that? I mean, like, maybe it's just kind of like the 90s diners, but whatever. Like, it looks really reminiscent.
I think it feels like that diner, especially with Tarantino sitting in a diner, feels like that, the way he shoots this feels very Pulp Fiction. But this is where he tells him, hey, I'm in, I've met Mr. White. My name's Mr. Orange. We're going to, this is where we're going to look up this guy, Mr. White. He's from Milwaukee, blah, blah, blah. And there's a little thing right here that I think is really interesting, and it fleshes out this world so goddamn good. And it makes you want more information, and they won't give it to you, where he's like, hey, I'm in there because, Long Beach Mike vouch for me. He's a good guy. Do right by him. He's like, no, Long Beach Mike is a rat. He's selling out his amigos, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who is Long Beach Mike? Like, who the fuck is this guy? And I love that because it shows you the reason. Do I need that information? How Mr. Orange got into this thing? Like, no, not really. But it does this amazing thing of fleshing stuff out. And there's actually something I read online that was like a Reddit fan theory that what happened was Mr. Orange gets in because of Long Beach Mike. And then what happens is once Joe realizes that Mr. Orange is the only one he's not 100% on, he then realizes that Long Beach Mike sold him out. So he goes to Long Beach Mike and he's like, what the fuck? Is this guy a cop? And he's like, yeah, he's a cop. And there's a theory going around that basically Long Beach Mike doubled back and snitched on Mr. Orange for Joe. And I was like, that's actually fucking cool. Like, it's just cool speculation. But still, like, it's this whole level of world building that I love. The whole thing with Holdaway, the whole thing with Long Beach Mike. I fucking love it, dude.
And here's the thing. It's not necessary, but it's there. Like, like Tarantino doesn't need to go to those kinds of lengths to flesh out the realism of this world, but he does. And he's just so good at it.
Yeah. And going as far as like the Commode story coming up next, like I love this whole thing. You got to be naturalistic as hell. If you're a great actor, you're a bad actor, and bad actors bullshit. This is great, man. And I don't like Holdaway for the little bit he's in here. It's kind of when you're looking at him, you're like, this guy's a cop. like that's kind of crazy, you know? Like he's just so chill. He's so down to earth. You know, you don't see this guy as like a cop.
I love his outfit, dude. When we're in the rooftop and it's just
Yes.
the jean jacket and the headband, dude. Like, dude, no
The
shirt
green
underneath,
pants.
the green pants, the baggy pants, man.
But dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like they're on top of the clerk's roof. You know what I mean? Like there's something
when they
I
play hockey and shit.
I want to fucking hang out in this place so bad, dude. I've never been to California, and I really wish I would love to go to California, but then
How
B
have I
also
been
at
to
the same time.
California first? Like, this is insane, man.
I don't get out a lot. I've never been on a plane. I've never been on a plane. Like I don't get out a lot. But dude, there's just something about that early 90s California aesthetic that I'm like, dude, I want to go in there and hang out. I want to walk down the street with a beeper and listen to my Walkman, you know, and use a payphone. Like there's just something so cool about that. But he tells him this is the commode story. You know, he's like, you memorize a joke, can't you? No. Well, pretend you're fucking Don Rickles or somebody and memorize a joke. It's an amusing anecdote about a drug deal that you did. You know, you just got to keep saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it. Like, I love this whole thing. And him practicing. I mean, I'm not going to do this thing scene by scene, but I do love his like Silver Surfer posters and shit. I was like, dude, that's cool.
Very Tarantino, man. Tarantino
Yes.
goes hard, goes deep with comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I love, you know, he's in this apartment. We cut to him outside, and he's like, "Motherfucker, I'm trying to watch the Lost Boys," you know. And I'm like, dude, the shot of him on that graffiti ridden wall is one of the most cool shots of this movie,
Amazing,
dude.
man. Like I like how. I wonder if this is an actual locale or if this is like something that they did.
Oh, it's gotta be.
It
It's
must be,
gotta
right?
Well, and the whole thing of like, you know, I'm trying to rent the Lost Boys, and they want fucking $10 bags and $20 bags. I got my shit weighed out in $60 bags. I don't even know what fucking $10 looks like. Like, dude, I did this as a monologue once. My friend was getting into short films, and he was like, "Hey, I need somebody just to read off a monologue so I can film them." And he was like, "I don't really have a lot of like actor friends." I'm like, "Well, I'm not an actor, but I do know this monologue pretty well." And this was like 8 years ago. But yeah, this whole scene is just really great. And the fact that it cuts to him in the apartment, it cuts to him outside the graffiti, it cuts to him in the bar. He like walks into the bar lighting the cigarette, and that's where it picks up. And I was like, dude, this is so good. I love the transitions in this. This is brilliant. They cover weeks amount of time like that.
I want to believe that this is Marcellus Wallace's club. Like, I mean, because the first time you see Marcellus Wallace, it's that red kind of like club, man. Like like this just looks like, you know, like it's owned by Marcellus Wallace.
Right. No, 100%. I like this whole story. And immediately when he's telling this, he's like, you know, there's a weed drought. I get the weed. I go into the bathroom. There's the cops, blah, blah, blah. There's Mr. White. And he's like, man, that's a tough situation. Immediately is sympathizing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you get this immediate kind of charm where he feels for this guy. But he walks to the bathroom for Los Angeles County sheriffs and a German Shepherd. Like, oh, dude, these cops are hilarious, dude. It's like, I'm gonna shoot you in the face if you don't put your hands on the dash. Like, because, you know, the cops in LA never had any problems after this, you know?
No, I'm sure, you know, the Rampart Division was just a dream. This is, these guys look like the guys that killed George Floyd. I mean, like
Right.
they just...
There's something, especially the guy with the mustache who was just like, they had to do a chest up shot because his cock is so stiff in his pants. And it's like, dude, chill the fuck out. But
then they realized that Tim Roth isn't black. So,
yeah. Well, the whole thing is he's like, you know, he's like, panic hits me like a bucket of cold water, and that dog can smell it on me. And they're all staring at him as the camera is rotating. I'm like, dude, brilliant. This is so good, man. But this is the shit. This is what I'm talking about.
And the shadows. For me, it's the shadows, dude. Like the way they use the shadows here. Like it looks like he stepped into a dream. Like, you know, like
right.
And it's supposed to. Like it's supposed to look like something that's been made up, which is. But the way that they use the visual style here, the visual language, as like we rotate, like the like when we cut back to the urinals, like if you look at the little kind of like taps on top of the urinals, and you can see the shadow outlines of of each tap, it looks like something that you just, there's just so much detail here. Probably too much detail, because that's what you would be doing. You'd be providing way too much detail in a story that is inconsequential.
Right, yeah, and there's just something about this scene that I love of seeing him practice it in the apartment. We cut to the graffiti, we cut to inside the nightclub, we cut to the bathroom. He's telling the story as the cops are looking at him, and I'm like, you know what? I just don't feel like I ever saw something like this in a Tarantino movie again. It's like I don't feel like I ever saw something to this degree of these amazing transitions of this almost feels like so we go to mom's, kill Philip, go to Liz's, get a cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over. Like there's something about that feel that I really, really love. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. We get a little bit more setup. He's meeting up with the guys. What do you think about him putting on the wedding ring? Like it's such a small thing. It's not even really necessary, but it just adds a little bit more mystery to him,
I've always loved that detail, because doesn't he also nearly forget to put it on? Is that like another part of it? Yeah,
he starts walking out the door.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And like for him to go back to it means that it's important to him, to his character. And like I feel like that he's really been living in this character. Like, like he's really been, for a while now, he's been eating and breathing and, just absolutely living as this guy. And like for him to go out without the wedding ring, to me says that he's just going in there just unprepared. So for him to put on the wedding ring is just like, man, like if I don't put this on, like part of my story falls apart and I will not be able to do this. Like, like it's just such a nice touch, man, and just absolutely brilliant, and just a brilliant way to tell you the lengths that this guy's gone to infiltrate this organization.
right. This is going to be, bless you. This is such a dad joke, but it's almost like he's married to the character. Like literally, he like locks himself into this fucking thing.
No, absolutely. I've always loved the detail of him putting his pistol in his jacket pocket. Like, like it's not in his pants, it's in his jacket pocket somewhere. Like, okay, maybe I'm getting into too much detail here, but like if you are getting into a gunfight, you're going to be kind of like drawing your gun from your belt, or like, you're going to be kind of like cross drawing. You're not going to be reaching into your like jacket pocket, like lifting your elbow up to reach in there. Like, it's interesting that
Right.
he decides to put it right there, like it seems like he's wanting to come across as an inexperienced criminal, which he is, which is his cover. Like he's not a cop that's being trained by the academy.
Right. Well, and I also like the fact that he's like, I see. I read it almost like, well, I'm not a cop. I can't just wear a gun on my hip. I have to hide this gun because I'm not. I'm not technically supposed to have this thing on me. But yeah, the ankle, I think it's like a little 22 on his ankle, on the 6-shot in his pocket. Like, oh, it's fucking cool. You're the man, and you're a Beretta, and they're not going to be able to tell shit. Like the little moment that he has, it's like, dude, your nerves have to be shot to shit to be this guy. And it's like, if you find out these guys are going to take turns cutting your fucking ears off, I'm going to cut off all your ears, and it's like, that's terrifying, man, to know, the fact that Joe is as well known as he is between the police and the criminal underground. He's not quite Marcellus Wallace. It doesn't feel like that, but that Joe knows some people that if you were to get caught and you were literally, you'd be like David being fed to the lions, and it's like, oh fuck, dude, like that your cover could be blown at any minute, and it's almost like being in a room and everybody turns into zombies and they're immediately after you. Like, fuck, that is terrifying, man. I love the cops. Yeah, this guy's got rocks in his head the size of Gibraltar. Hey, yeah, give me the bear claw. Like, yeah, the way they look at cops in this movie is fucking hilarious. But, yeah, so this is where we kind of get the meet up. They're riding in the car. This is one of the scenes that makes you want to hang out with these guys and makes you just want to shoot the shit and smoke a joint, drink a beer, like hang out with these guys. Maybe not murder cops and shoot a bunch of people on the street.
Record a podcast.
But there's something about that.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, there's something about that camaraderie that I really love. And, this is where you kind of get, at the beginning of the movie, this is what Tarantino is known for. It's the pop culture references to the Madonna song, but you really don't get any of that again until this point. And this is where you start getting the whole thing. Oh no, that was Pam Grier, oh, you're under arrest, sugar, like all of this stuff, and this is all stuff that Tarantino would, I think, really kind of hatch into with Pulp Fiction. Like that's when that became like, the whole thing of like the 50s diner and shit like
Royale
that
with
became more of a
cheese.
big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen Jackie Brown?
Not in a long time, but yeah.
Fucking great, dude. I mean, like Pam Grier.
Yeah.
Like he'd work with Pam Grier eventually with that, but yeah, like fucking amazing. Like a really underrated Tarantino film.
It is. I hate the fact that Tarantino never worked with Michael Keaton again. It really pisses me off. And I'm like, dude, that's one of my favorite actors with a very, very good director. And I'm like, it sucks, man. Same thing with Robert De Niro. I don't think he ever worked with Robert De Niro again. And I'm like, man, that fucking bums me out. Like those are two of the best actors of all time. And I just never got to see them work with him again. That's really sucks. But at the same time, then you move on. You see him work with Jamie Foxx. You get to see him work with Sissy Spacek in Hateful Eight. Like that's really cool. Like I like seeing those him kind of swap it up. It's not all. Isn't she the one that's like, I don't want to say her line where she's like, howdy, N-word, and he punches her in the face. What is that, Sissy Spacek? Or am I wrong? The lady that played Carrie?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's her. Wait, maybe. I don't know. In Hateful Eight?
All right, I'm looking this up. This is all exciting for everybody listening at home.
I
know. I am probably so wrong. Jennifer Jason Leigh. Maybe that's who the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I mean, like Jennifer Jason Leigh was the only female in the Hateful Eight. Oh, actually, no. There's another female in Hateful Eight, but she's someone else.
No, yeah, I'm way off. I always thought that was the little bit of that movie that I've seen. I totally thought that was Sissy Spacek, and I'm way off. But no, yeah, I seeing him go on. I've never seen Jennifer Jason Leigh pop up in another one of his movies. So it's kind of cool, but
him discovering Christoph Waltz.
Right, yeah, and the crazy thing is that Christoph Waltz had been in Germany acting for years, for decades, and really he blew up on Inglourious. That's cool. But yeah, so this is, again, we're getting the setup, this great story about E. Lois, and I love the whole culture of thing where he's like, no, it's the black, Beverly Hills. Oh, no, it's black this. You see that there's a lot of stuff where it's like, it's the same thing with Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese is very, you hear Ray Liotta really talk a lot of shit about black people in Goodfellas, where he's like, who get caught, N-word stick-up men who fall asleep in the truck.
Moulignan is the word that they use in Sopranos.
Right. And they always kind of look down, at black people and African Americans as in the criminal underworld. And it's the same thing in this, and he's like, it's the same thing of like everybody, oh, you're a fucking, I don't even know a Jew who's that cheap, blah, blah, blah. And it's stuff like that. But this is the way these guys are, these guys don't they'll shoot you on the street if you get in their way. They don't give a fuck about being politically correct.
Right, exactly. I was literally about to say those words. They don't give a fuck about being politically correct. Like, I mean, like there's no chivalry. Like, like they are here to do a job. There's no chivalry. Like they're not going to be polite. Like there's none of that bullshit. Like again, it feels like how people would talk if there were no women around. Like how guys would talk if there were no women around. It's just you're just gonna lean back, take a load off, drink a beer, and you're not going to have any second thought about being politically correct or tiptoe your way around issues that are morally wrong. You're just going to bring them up in the most, I guess, natural way possible, right? Which, again, says a lot about your character, however you bring it up.
Right, yeah, 100%. I like this. We see where Mr. Orange is pretty versed in pop culture, I like nice guy Eddie in the front seat, like, well, look at this fucking guy. His reaction to him correcting him and all this stuff. Great story about her, Lois gluing her guy's dick to his belly. How would you feel if every time you had to take a piss, you had to do a fucking handstand? That's a great dude, and it's great. It's nice because immediately after this scene, though. Immediately after this is, them sitting down, they're talking about the caper, and he's like, so you guys like to tell jokes and play around? I got a joke for you. He's like, all these guys sitting in San Quentin, wondering how the hell they got there. While we were planning this caper, we realized we were all sitting around telling fucking jokes. This is where everybody gets their name. This is a great, again, the political correctness. Why is my name Mr. Pink? Dude, I still
sounds like Mr. Pussy.
Dude, I know how fucked up it is to laugh at that joke, and I can't help it, dude. He's like, because you're a I still fucking laugh at that because again, it's his delivery. He doesn't give a fuck.
Absolutely, like, it's a delivery.
Right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I agree with what he said, but this is how these guys are, And
it's exactly how Mr. Pink would be, like how Buscemi's character would be. It's someone who is going to nitpick the finer details, like someone who's going to not like, it takes him a while to let it go, like even though he ultimately does let it go, it's very much like the no tipping thing, right? Like he's going to stand his ground, he's going to plant himself like a fucking tree until Joe commands that he let it go, like it's very telling.
Right. Do you know who Steve Buscemi is in Pulp Fiction?
Can you give me a hint, because I feel like I do.
He is in the diner scene with Mia and Vincent.
Okay, I do not know then.
So because of his anti-tipping policy in this movie, Quentin Tarantino thought it'd be funny, and he made Steve Buscemi the Buddy Holly waiter. He's like, "Oh, you want a $5 milkshake? That's Steve Buscemi. Yeah, that's Steve Buscemi."
I think I did know this because he's off screen. You hear the voice, right? That's right. I remember.
No. You see him.
Oh,
you see him, but he's got big glass. He's got big glasses
awesome.
and hair
that
and stuff.
That is amazing.
Another thing that's fucked up, that's the last time he worked with Tarantino. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like, that kind of bums me out. Like, I love Steve Buscemi. I wish, I like seeing him revolve people, but he's worked with Tim Roth a lot. He's worked with Samuel L. Jackson on damn near everything. He's in so much stuff. Uma Thurman.
I'm pretty sure this is the only movie that he's not in. Like Samuel L. Jackson, sorry. So Samuel L. Jackson's even in Inglourious Bastards. Like, he's a voiceover. But yeah, he's in literally everything he's ever done. Probably not the Kill Bills, though.
Well, Kill Bill, he's the piano player at one point.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know which one of those. Yeah, I don't know which one of those he's in.
Oh, he's not in Death
It's
Proof,
either one or two. Right. Yeah, that's true. I'm not very versed on. I've honestly haven't really watched the Kill Bills a lot. I wasn't a huge fan. I'm just not. That's not my kind of genre. I don't love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, they're fine movies. I don't have anything against them. I just don't really, they just don't rock my socks off. But I love Uma Thurman in them.
Carradine.
Oh yeah, David Carradine. Like, the whole thing. I'm just not a big kung fu. Like, even Bruce Lee. I love Bruce Lee's like philosophy,
and that's fair enough. I mean, like, that's what Tarantino makes movies about things that he loves, right? Like, I mean, like, he loves old school cinema, which is why we get Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He loves the Japanese kung fu films. Like, that is why we get Kill Bill. He loves heist films, which is why we get Reservoir Dogs.
Right, 100%. Everybody gets their fucking names in this scene. This is where we get, how about Mr. Purple? Now some other guy on a job is Mr. Purple. You're Mr. Pink.
What do you think? This is a fucking city council meeting?
Yeah, this ain't a goddamn fucking city council meeting.
God.
Michael Fassbender did this as a play once. He was Mr. Pink.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fucking incredible.
I Googled this and I was like, there's no way nobody ever did this as a play. And 100% they did.
Well, there's another fucking actor Tarantino's worked with, right? I mean, like, that's before Fassbender was known as, the Michael Fassbender.
Right, yeah. This was like in the early 2000s or 90s or something when he did this. But yeah, everybody gets their name. I love it. He's like, as everybody's going on, don't call anybody by your Christian name. We don't want information getting out, and it just locks on orange and it just zooms in. You're like, oh, you devious motherfucker, dude. And this is where we get, as we're moving along, we get them kind of staking the place out. I like this scene. We get a little camaraderie between them, where he's like that, where they end, this girl's, this girl's ass. Yeah, sitting on my dick. But it really shows you the depths of what Mr. White will go to, where he's like, cut this guy's pinky off, bash this dude's nose in. If some bitch gives you shit, look at her like you're going to smash her nose in next. And you're like, oh, fuck. That's kind of crazy.
It's not murder, though. Like, it's not what Blonde would, like, the lengths Blonde would go to. It's crowd control, right? Like, I mean, we need to get out.
It's intimidation.
Right, we need to get out of here alive. I'm thinking about Three-Leaf Clover now from GTA 4. I know we've brought this up before, like, Three-Leaf Clover, that big mission. But But yeah, man, like this is like, yeah, it tells you the kind of person White is. Like White is someone who will have no hesitation to, hit you in the face or anything like that to get away, but he is not blonde. Like he will not go to the lengths that blonde does. Like it's crazy. It's awesome. It's again great character development. This is something that is interesting to me because I know people who will watch a movie like Reservoir Dogs, who will watch a movie like Hateful Eight, and they will say that oh man, I wish there was more character development in this. There is so much character development in this movie. Like
Right.
like
It's just not spelled out for you.
exactly. Like it's the same reason why someone would watch Mad Max Fury Road and say it's just an action movie. There's no character development in here. The character development is told all through action, in that movie. Whereas like here, it's told all through dialogue. Just because you don't see someone doing something like a positive action, like literally, like let's say someone fell down and like White picks him off the ground. Like I guess that's character development, but it's very shallow. Like it's a very lazy way to show it.
Well, I think also if you take White out of that, put Pink in, Pink doesn't stop to pick that person up. It's not character develop, but it also shows you a shade of who they are. It's not a distinct color, but it's just a little shade of who they are. I like that.
Right. I think a lot of people, man, like especially these days, people get caught up in like the two words character development. People often think that it means one thing when they don't realize that it doesn't really necessarily mean what they think it does. Like, like I think this movie you can take it to be like a very surface level, like, ooh, who's the cop? Like this is a heist film. But like there's so much here that that really meets the eye.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. Like little stuff that if you just catch and hold on to it, and just go crazy with it like we do, yeah, you'll end up making sense out of it. No, I'm just kidding.
You need to start a podcast to understand it.
Yeah. I love this whole thing where he's like, yeah, if some bitch gives you shit, you look at her like you smash her Noah next. Then he'll tell you if he wears women's underwear. I'm hungry. Let's get a taco. And he just drives off. I can't, dude. That and I have to return some videotapes is how I've ended so many conversations, dude. Again, the brutality as we cut to them. Brown's in that car. Of course, Brown dies. That's it's kind of rough. Where he's like, man, I can't fucking see anything. I'm going blind. And he's like, no, you're not going blind. You just got blood in your eyes. They turn the corner. Mr. White just unloads both those guns. And you're like, dude, again, Mr. Orange having to sit here and just watch that because he can't do anything, Like he could easily just sat there and shot Mr. White in the back of the head and be like, oh yeah, somebody killed him. Oh no, what am I going to do? But it's kind of interesting. Like, let me ask you a question. Do you think he can murder White right here and just walk away and be like, oh, somebody killed him?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Like, it's kind of his choice to leave him alive,
I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's something interesting that the fact that you could have killed this person and saved a lot of people's lives, but the fact that, like, does he leave him alive because he likes him? Or does he just kind of think like, nah, that's kind of taking the law into my own hands? Like me personally, I probably would have shot him, but that's just me. There's something interesting in that of having to be. It's like the mime who's trapped in the thing and just wishes he could get out, and it's like, but it's there, but it's not there kind of thing. It's like, fuck, you're really limited on what you can and can't say. It's interesting.
I think it's also a bit of self-preservation, right? I mean, like he's met Joe, right? And the kind of guy that he probably is. And, if Joe gets wind of like him killing White here and I feel like there's a little bit of like, I'm in way too deep. There is kind of like no way out of this kind of like situation besides going on, like besides playing along, like
Right. I almost wish there had been like if they had forced Orange to kill a cop or something. Like, oh fuck, man! Like that's just how deep he is into this. Like, I think that'd be an interesting scene. Yeah, this is where they get into the car. Of course, we're kind of circling back to where we were at the beginning with this woman shooting Orange in the stomach. This is great. All this blood scaring the shit out of me, Larry. I'm gonna die. I know it. Like that's such a good line.
That's brilliant, dude. Like in and of itself, that it's an innocent bystander who is the one to shoot Orange. Like like it's an innocent bystander who is the one that will probably kill Orange. Like it's crazy. Like this whole time you're made to think that it's a police officer or like, you know, like someone else. Like it's I would never have in a million years thought that it was a just someone that they stole a car from. Like I never would have thought that.
Right. No, 100%. Like the fact that it's you know, you got to watch your back for the guys you're working with because you don't know any of these guys. You also have to watch out for the cops. And on top of that, you've got this lady, you know, one of the only females that pops up in a film, pulls a fucking revolver out of her glove box and shoots you in the belly button. Like gives you a free.
And she gets blown away.
Right. Removes your appendix for you for free. You know, it's like, fuck, man, that sucks. But getting back to the warehouse, it walks in, he sees Blonde dead. You can see how bad that affects Eddie. It just, immediately he's got the diamonds. He's just like, what the fuck, dude? He's so distraught. Walks up and he's like, oh, what, this cop? And just unloads into him. Like, all of that was for nothing, dude. Killing Blonde, doing all of the shit was for fucking nothing because he walks right up and kills this dude. Like, that's fucking gut wrenching, man. It just really shows you the kind of cutthroat, like, oh, I don't give a fuck. He cut his ear off. Oh, he's going to burn him alive. Oh, this cop. And he just shoots him. But there is something interesting about that. Like, dude, if Blonde had lit that guy on fire, the fucking attention that would draw to that place of just like a guy screaming, smoke pouring out of this place.
Do you think Blonde thinks about that though? Like that's more of a Pink consideration, right? Like Pink is going to be like thinking about that. If Pink was here and Blonde said, I'm gonna fucking light this guy on fire, it's Pink that realizes, hey, no, that's gonna attract way too much attention. Can you imagine the smoke that's gonna be billowing out these doors? Like Blonde's the one that's obsessed with getting back at this guy for something that someone else did.
No, yeah, I think you're exactly right. Pink is the one that I gotta admit, if I'm anybody in this movie, I'm Pink. You know, I'm the one who's like, fuck you. I don't know your name. You don't know mine. Let's keep it that way. Everybody be cool, you know, kind of thing. But dude, this is where he lays it out. I love Orange. He's like, oh, he was going to pull a burn. He was going to kill the cop and then me and then run off with the diamonds. And Mr. White's on his fucking side. He's like, see, that sick bastard. I told you he was going to blah, blah, blah. But dude, this is Chris Penn's fucking moment in this movie, dude. This is, oh my God, he owns this shit. What did you think about this? Where this is, I mean, Chris Penn, not an Oscar-winning, actor or anything. I'm not going to knock him; he's a good actor. But this was like, oh, dude, that he ate this scene up. What did you think about this?
I've got nothing else to say. Like he's got that crazed look in his eye, man. Like his hair's fucking everywhere. He's got the blood stain in his face. Like he sells it, man. Like he just really sells it. Like I'm right about that. That's correct. That's his story. Like, fuck, he's top notch.
Dude, let me just say this out loud so everybody can understand, so I can hear it myself. But the fact that watching this crumble in front of Arge's face, I swear to my mother, that's what happened. And he's like, he just got released from prison. He got caught at a company warehouse full of hot items and he could have fucking, and it's like, oh no.
He did his time. He did 4 years for us. Like, it's that level of like, it's trust, right? I mean, like, this is the movie. Like, if you were asked to like, boil this movie down into one word, it's trust, right? Like it's all about White's trust of Orange, Orange's trust of White, Nice Guy's Eddie's trust of Blonde, right? I mean, like, because that's what's ultimately the undoing of Orange's story. Like Nice Guy Eddie trusts Blonde, like he knows him. Like it's brilliant that it's just like it works both ways for both parties, and it's fantastic. I love it.
Right. Well, you've also got to take Nice Guy Eddie, who's like, I don't know you. I've known this guy for years, and it's like there's no way that this is what happened. Between you and this guy, I'm fucking choosing this guy. It's such a great moment where the camera's zooming in on him. So, Mr. Orange, you're telling me this very good friend of mine who did 4 years for my father, who in 4 years never made a deal, no matter what they dangled in front of him. You're telling me now that this man is free. He's just gotta we're making good on his commitment to him. He's just gotta decide out of the fucking blue to rip us off.
Dude, after he widens his eyes after that and he looks like a fucking Chucky doll. Like, I love it.
Yes. And dude, that's when the atomic bomb of Joe finally shows up. You know why? Just be more bullshit. Oh, that's so good. Immediately, this guy set us up. You know, this guy's a fucking rat. He's the only one I wasn't 100% on. You know, this is so good. I love what he says. He's like, Joe, how the fuck can you know that? You don't need proof when you've got instinct. And it's like, he's the only one I was not 100% on. Like, yeah, you don't know this guy. Everybody else is like the little bit I've read outside of this is like, they know Mr. Pink from when Mr. Pink was like a kid. They know a lot of these guys outside of this. You know, they're not loyal guys to Joe, but they know them. Like Mr. Orange is just this fresh cat right off the street. And it's like, yeah, what Occam's Razor, what is the simplest explanation? The guy I don't know is a rat. Like that makes sense. This cocksucker tipped off the cops.
Yeah.
He got Mr. Brown and Mr. Yeah, we got Mr. Brown and Mr. Blue killed. This is where we find out Mr. Blue's dead.
Dead as Dillinger.
Dead as Dillinger. Yeah, that's a great line. What did you, I mean, because we're pretty much here. He draws the gun on him. We get the Mexican standoff. This was the first time I'd ever seen a Mexican standoff in film. And I was like, whoa.
Me too.
And I had never seen one.
Literally me too.
Yeah, I'd never seen one go down this way. Like, what did you think about this the first time that you saw it?
Well, I mean, like, look, I am, again, probably about 13 years old the first time I saw this, and I was a little disappointed. I mean, like, because you kind of, it felt a little too clean. Like, you know, if you're a kid, it feels too clean. You kind of want to see something a bit more, I guess, extrapolated or extended or exaggerated. But, you know, growing up and seeing this scene, this is probably exactly how this would go down. Like, you know, everyone's probably going to draw their guns. Everyone's going to draw lines in the sand. You know, White's starkly going to defend Orange because he's come to know Orange. And, you know, nice guy Eddie's naturally going to point the gun at White. And, you know, Lawrence Tierney's character is probably naturally going to try and shoot and kill the guy that ruined his plan. So it makes 100% sense. Like, you know, I think this is a fantastic scene. Like, do you want to talk about who killed Nice Guy Eddie? Because who kills Nice Guy Eddie?
Mr. White.
Do you really?
Yeah, he shoots both of them. You can watch it. Like, I've watched, dude. You don't understand to the extent I have watched this movie. I don't mean to sound like Tom Cruise talking about psychology and be like, you don't understand Reservoir Dogs. I do.
But you know, this is the thing, right? Like, this is kind of like pretty like hotly, well, not hotly debated, but it's like so there's a thing like where there's like articles all over the internet about this. So the three eventually fired with Cabot dying and Mr. White and Mr. Orange being injured. However, when looking closely at the scene, Eddie died before Mr. White fired at him.
Right. It's a fuck up.
Yeah.
And like his squib goes off earlier or something. Right.
So Chris Penn once explained that his blood squib went off earlier than planned, forcing him to fall to the floor before time. Penn said that Keitel was supposed to shoot Tierney and then him, but the squib on Keitel went right off after shooting Tierney. So he went down before he shot Penn, whose squib went off anyway, so he had to fall too. Apparently it was bad timing, but Tarantino decided to keep the scene for the sake of people talking about the film, saying it would be, quote, the biggest controversy of the film. In the end, nobody shot Nice Guy Eddie, but in the script, it was Mr. White who did it, which completely rules out the option of Mr. Orange shooting Eddie. I didn't think that was a consideration at all, ever.
No, yeah, because I'm watching it on YouTube with 0.25 speed.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like, yeah, like, it's like Joe shoots Orange, White shoots Joe, and then as he's turning, he falls. And if you watch his gun, it goes off a second time. Like he's supposed to shoot him. But dude, this is like Shakespearean Greek fucking tragedy, man, of like, you know, Mr. Pink's like, guys, put your fucking guns down. Let's talk about this, you know, and he goes and hides. Again, that's me. I'm Mr. Pink. But as you look, dude, there's Orange, who's basically dead. White is basically dead. Joe is dead. Nice Guy Eddie's dead. The cop is dead. Blonde is dead. Brown is dead. Blue is dead. It's like, fuck, dude.
Well, I mean, and I think this is one of the first movies ever where I'd like seen an ending where every single person died. Like, you know, that was a new concept.
Not every single person.
Wait, who doesn't die? Oh, not Nash, right? No, wait, Nash is dead.
Pink. Pink doesn't die.
That's right. But I mean, like, come on, dude. You can assume that he's going to die. Like, the cops are going to fucking storm this place.
No. You can hear it. I've done this before. You can watch the scene and turn the volume up and you can hear him. You hear him get shot and he goes, all right, God damn it, I've been shot. And you don't hear them go, you're under arrest, like blah, blah, blah. But he does get shot, and then I assume he's arrested, but he doesn't get killed because there is like gunfire as he goes outside, but he's definitely arrested. Because I always thought that too. I was very much so like, wait, does he die or does he not? Or does he go out there and just start shooting? Like what happens? But apparently he gets shot and he gets arrested. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense to me.
Can we? I can't go. I can't go past the part, man. Stop pointing that gun at my dad! Like, oh my god, man. That's like etched in my mind.
Long time ago, I was in a band and we were recording in my friend's garage, and we had the song that just started like and it was just a straight strumming. So we were watching Reservoir Dogs religiously at the time, and it was on Netflix. So we put it on Netflix, we pause it right there, and the song starts with Chris Penn going, Larry, stop pointing that fucking gun at my dad! And right when the gun goes off, we did the and it's around here somewhere. I can find the recording of it. But yeah, this is on Screen Rant. Whatever happened to Mr. P?
Yeah, I'm on Screen Rant as well. Like, quick. I literally just read the Screen Rant article.
Oh, right. Let me see here. Reservoir Dog, blah, 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 blah. Where do I... for Mr. Pink's escape as Mr. White Orange, the sound design makes it blatantly clear that something dramatic is also happening outside. Mr. Pink can be heard conversing with the police officers, but just barely. But whether he lives or dies is another matter. Tarantino ends without telling exactly what happened, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you could hear him get shot, and he's like, all right, God damn it, I've been shot. And I was so interested in that when I was a kid.
I think I remember reading this a long time ago, yeah.
But yeah, this is where, what do you think about Orange? Like, I think it's kind of this honorable thing of him being like, Larry, I'm a cop. Like, this is what's going to happen when they kick in these doors. Like, my thing is, you survived this long with one gunshot wound. Maybe you keep your mouth shut and you might survive, dude. Like, they don't say anything, I think there is something just kind of honorable about that, though.
And I think that's it. Like, I think I've just watched this guy who pretty much just took a bullet for standing up for me. Like, in his dying breaths, I'm going to tell him the truth because he deserves to. Like, he deserves to be told the truth. Like, before he dies, like I am a cop and I am sorry. Like, it's the apology that always gets me. It's it's futile, right? I mean, like there is kind of like, the apology is not going to it's not going to let him live. It's not going to, get him out of this situation. I'm still going to take the time to apologize to you because I just think that in your last breaths, it's going to make you feel better. I've betrayed you. I am sorry. Before you go, before you shuffle off your mortal coil, I am sorry. And there's just something beautiful about that.
Right. Yeah, there is something just a respect among. Again, these guys seem like weird, sides of the same coin in a weird way. Like, I mean, Mr. Orange would never go in and kill a bunch of cops at a party, and he'd never cut somebody's pinky off. But it is like there are aspects of each other that they're like, dude, I respect you. I respect what you do. Like, you're a professional like me, and I think that's kind of cool. It's even when you see rivalries between people in sports and people in music, they're like, dude, we're rivals. But even just because we're rivals doesn't mean we don't have a lot of shit in common. I think that's really cool. But I mean, yeah, so he puts the gun under his head. I love you. We don't see any of the cops. He just shoots Mr. Orange and then, he gets fucking blasted. And that's Reservoir Dogs, dude. That's fucking it.
Man, that's Reservoir Dogs.
Man, I'm just jumping into final thoughts, dude. I fucking love this movie. This is, again, probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I would be extremely happy to ever do this as a play. I think this would be so much fun to do. And actually what my idea was to do the play live, and then all the stuff that's not chronologically happening, like the flashbacks with Mr. Blonde, the flashbacks with Mr. White, the flashbacks with Mr. Orange. At the community college I went to for a little bit, they have like the main theater, and then they had two little screens on each side. So my idea was like, do the play, and anything that's a flashback, do it in black and white and play it on the screens. So it's kind of like a movie and a thing. I would love to be able to do this. I think this would be so much fun. I don't think it would. don't think it would be too hard to do, but getting the licensing and doing all that shit would just be absolutely insane. Especially now with how big Tarantino is, like, dude, and watching this really kind of makes me miss, I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like Tarantino movies. Okay. But I feel like I just wish he had kind of stuck, with this kind of low budget, like it's very innovative. It's not 3 hours long, like that kind of thing. Like, I guess I don't, this is a masterpiece. I love it. And it's so fucking good. And I'm not saying that his newer movies are bad or that I think that or that I don't enjoy them, but as they've gone on, like I enjoyed Inglourious Bastards. Okay. I like Django more than Inglourious Bastards probably, but I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I've not had the urge to buy it. I have not had the urge to watch it again. It's just not something that I really feel all that drawn to. But this movie, the whole thing, it's got heart. It's got, it's got jokes. It's got this honor among thieves and police officers kind of thing. I really, really, really enjoy that kind of aspect of it. And you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just the 90s aesthetic. Maybe it's just the fact that I like something that's a lean, mean 90 minutes with really, really great character development. And maybe this was before, Quentin Tarantino was writing 350-page scripts, I don't know. There's just something very charming about this movie that's real down to earth. I think there's something about that I like. It's modest. It's not somebody who knows that no matter what they put on the page, it's going to get made. And there's something about that I think that really kind of locks this in for me. Like I said, I don't mean any disrespect to his newer movies. They're fine movies, but this is the best Tarantino movie in my opinion. And I think it's probably one of the best movies ever made. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
So I just wanted to confirm you like this movie?
Yeah, this movie sucks.
No, I think, yeah, dude, you 100% hit the nail on the head. Like, there is not one single bad thing I can say about this movie. Like, for the past, I guess, 2 hours and change, 2.5 hours and change, like, no matter what I've said, I can't find a single flaw in this movie. Like, you can question Quentin Tarantino's acting, right? I mean, like, I guess you can question it, but like, it doesn't even come close to being bad to me. Like, it's still kind of like, because you don't see
it's distracting at worst,
right? At worst. But for me, it's not, because you barely see Brown, right? 2 very short scenes. That's it, right? So, like, for me, it's the dialogue in this movie, and for me, like, that is what makes Quentin Tarantino, and that's what sets him apart from other directors. Like, you've got Christopher Nolan, who is someone who writes scripts and directs movies in this really intelligent way. He's technically proficient. He's able to use the camera in such an insane way. Like, the way he directs music as well. Like, the music in his in his movies are insane. Martin Scorsese is just an absolute, powerhouse when it comes to directing, acting. But Tarantino stands apart when it comes to writing scripts, man. Like, he's able to just get into the minds of his characters, and you're able to kind of really relate to his characters in a way that's just you don't want to, because he's often writing about terrible characters. And like, just the way he's able to execute that with Reservoir Dogs as his first kind of like major film is just groundbreaking. And like, I 100% get what you're saying, dude. Like, this is just such a lean, mean, earnest movie where information is revealed to you at specific points throughout the movie that when it's revealed, you're just like, fuck, that is a gut punch.
Right.
Like, I think my favorite Tarantino movies, and I know this is kind of like going a bit against the grain, but I don't care, because this is kind of like for me, it's Inglourious. I like, there's no second fiddle for me. Like,
good movie.
It's Inglourious for me that really, really cements it. And there are parts in Inglourious that I think aren't amazing, but that is my favorite. Like, I don't, that is the movie that to me is just signature Tarantino. Like, I just, there's so, like, it's amazing. I love that movie. Yeah, look, I don't know what else to say about this movie other than it's fucking incredible. Like,
and Glorious Bastards is Tarantino's Jojo Rabbit, you know?
yeah,
Like,
literally, man. But
no,
like,
that
yeah, go on.
I like Django a lot. I think it's very good. I remember I've seen Inglourious Bastards and Django in theaters. I saw both of them. Those are the only Tarantino movies I've seen in theaters. I love Django just because of Christoph Waltz, but it's hard because he's such a good bad guy and he's such a good guy
Yeah.
in both those movies. But there is something I hate about Django that we talked about this, almost 3 years ago when we covered it, was like the whole plan just seems kind of ridiculous and just bloated and unnecessary. And I was like, man, I just don't need this.
Right.
And
When they're sitting around the dinner table, you're kind of like, where are they kind of going with this sort of thing? Like, it doesn't seem...
Why the subterfuge?
Yeah,
why
exactly.
the hiding all this stuff?
I mean, I'm glad it's there because you kind of like... the product of it is amazing, kind of like tension, like, Leonardo DiCaprio's.
Yeah.
You don't know when Calvin Candy's going to blow up, and like eventually when he does, it's absolutely spectacular. So the product of that is great, but getting to it is a little wishy-washy.
Let me ask you something. In Hateful Eight, is there a twist on the level of Reservoir Dogs when you find out Orange is the cop?
Yes. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I was going to say, as you start watching Tarantino movies, there's really not one of those in Pulp Fiction. Maybe, when Butch kills Vincent in the apartment, or when, maybe in Kill Bill when she's like, bang, mommy, you're dead. And you see Beatrice Kiddo's little kid and you're like, oh, fuck.
There is a brilliant twist, or there's a brilliant revelation in The Hateful Eight. It's not advertised. It's not in the trailers. I guarantee you it probably hasn't even been spoiled for you.
No.
There's a revelation that comes into it probably around the hour and a half, 2 hour mark, where it's just like, holy fucking shit, I did not see that coming. I did not guess that. And it's just brilliant.
Word.
Yeah. You honestly,
I need to check that out,
Blu-ray, dude. I've considered covering it for the podcast, but it's 3 hours long. It's 3 hours long. And
we took this and turned it into 2.5.
Right. I think we're closing in on the 3 hour mark now. But it's man, it is. You need to check out The Hateful Eight. I think it is super underrated. Like, it kind of gets lumped into like Jackie Brown, when no one kind of really talks about it anymore. And I think it's just an absolute incredible piece of filmmaking. I think that to me, well, I mean, closing off my thoughts about Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs introduced me to movies that are kind of set at one location. Like, I'd go back and discover The Thing at a later date. I'd go
like Evil Dead,
Dead, yeah. And on the surface level, when you're kind of watching a movie like that, it's like, oh man, it's kind of going to be boring. It's all set in one location. But once you rely on your actors to deliver the dialogue and things like that you're relying, the director's relying on the actors mostly to sell that kind of concept. And when you have people like Kurt Russell, when you have people like Walton Goggins, when you have people like Tim Roth, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Dern, I'm talking about The Hateful Eight here. Once you have those, Michael Madsen as well makes a return in The Hateful Eight, by the way. It's crazy.
Word.
It's brilliant, dude. You need to check that out immediately. But look, Reservoir Dogs, probably one of the best first movies a director could ever make. And just an amazing movie. I'm glad that we covered it for the podcast.
Well, except for my best friend's birthday. Hello. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, fuck that movie.
I've only seen pictures of it. I don't even know if there's a copy of it that still exists.
The only other movie that I can really kind of equate as a first time director's first best movie. Well, actually, there's two. There's Nolan did Memento, right? Memento is kind of his first official movie, and the other one is Whiplash by Damien Chazelle. Because, how do you come out of the gate firing with, Whiplash?
My best friend's birthday is on YouTube, 36 minutes long. Oh, I got to watch this. I got to watch it. Anyways, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you have enjoyed our second Tarantino movie in almost 3 years, or 2.5, whatever. We'll do one a year like our Edgar Wright films. Guys, this has been a blast. Please pass the word along if you're listening to this and you got friends you think would love the show. Tell them about our Patreon. Obviously, you know where it is.
This is on Patreon.
Stop by, rate and review us on iTunes. Yeah, exactly. Stop by, rate and review us on iTunes if you haven't yet. If not, we'll catch you on the next episode. Goodbye.